Sky Factory 4, one of the most popular mod packs of all time, and I wanted to 100% it by completing every single advancement. I would have to go through 5 different dimensions, create complex machines, automate literally everything to farm millions of items, learn real-world chemistry to build a nuclear reactor, log over 300 hours of playtime, and so much more. But it all started from one tree floating in space. In my inventory, I had a few random starting items like food and my advancement book. This detailed everything that I had to do to 100% this mod pack, starting with getting saplings and acorns from this dirt tree that I was on. And yeah, this was a dirt tree. I carefully broke the leaves to get the acorns and saplings, then broke all the logs. The logs gave resin, and by combining that with the acorns, I could make a second piece of dirt and slightly expand my platform. By planting a sapling and spamming shift, I could quickly grow another tree, and I started to expand my platform by farming wood and dirt. While doing this, I also learned that the ore excavate mod was in this mod pack, which allowed me to break all connected blocks at once, making farming super fast. Following the advancement book, I made a drying rack, and I used it to dry out some acorns. These new petrified acorns allowed me to make a petrified sapling and grow it. The acorns and resin from this one could be used to make cobblestone. Now that I had this unlocked, I could craft a furnace to smelt acorns and use them for food. Not a very good food, but at least it was something. I continued this sapling-based progression, making a clay sapling and then a crushing tub that let me get bone meal and gravel acorns, getting saplings for those as well. The clay was pretty huge. Let me make a clay bucket, which I could then smelt to harden it. And the bucket lets me take mud out of the crushing tub, and I can use that for some stuff later. Doing this inspired me to make these wooden cauldrons and set them up. These were used to make certain things, but also could be used to catch rain and get my first water whenever it decides to actually rain. While waiting on that, I started working on some simple advancements that I missed. I made a stone and wooden crook, which is apparently a tool that gives me a really high sapling drop rate, which would have been nice to know sooner, but whatever. Then I made a crafting table slab and some chests to store my overly full inventory. Using the mud that I got from crushing dirt, I could unlock jungle saplings. By drying one out, I could get a vine and use that to create a cottonwood sapling, unlocking string, wool, and paper. And with the wool, I could make a bed, not to sleep in, just to get the advancement. I'm pretty sure sleeping delays rain in this version, so I didn't want to do that until I got my water. Speaking of water, after making the sand sapling, I was completely locked out of progress until it rained. Both of the next saplings needed me to unlock birch, which required water to make. I did start expanding my platform a bit, but I wanted spruce wood for it, which also needed water. The only other thing I was able to do is make a cobblestone cauldron and put it on top of a torch that I spawned in with, and I used that to get lava. But lava, of course, is only useful after you get water. So I was stuck and I just AFK'd for rain. It's raining! It's actually thundering! That's good. Does thunder have to strike a block? Because if so, that means it has to land on my platform, right? Nope, it does not. Okay. Yes! Give me water. I had to make bottles to transfer water between cauldrons in order to get 2 full buckets, but now I had infinite water and could get both spruce and birch saplings. And before doing anything else, I had to expand my platform. It was already so cramped and I needed more space before progressing much more. I went online and found a cool circle generator and built a big 41 diameter circle. I grew giant spruce trees for wood and added a spruce trim to the whole thing, and then I made the center of the platform a smaller circle. But now that I had more space, I had to prevent mobs from spawning on it. By smelting a birch sapling, I was able to make a coal sapling, and using that, I could easily make torches and light everything up. I was planning to fill in the gaps in the platform with grass, but farming so much dirt right now would be a total pain, so it would wait. There was an advancement to make a cobblestone generator and fill an entire chest with cobblestone. Now that I had water and lava, I could finally craft it, and this thing would just automatically create cobblestone and put it in the inventory on top. It wasn't that fast, but it was automatic, so I can't complain. While waiting on it to fill, I worked on other advancements. I made obsidian using water and lava, then I used a few different kinds of resin to make tin amber. The amber was how I get access to metals and ores, but first I had to make a melter. Using sand, gravel, and clay, I made a grout and I smelted it for seared bricks. With those, I could craft a melter, heater, casting table, and faucet. By setting all that up, I can now melt down the tin amber and pour the molten metal over a birch sapling to get a tin one. This, of course, lets me get even more tin, but what I really cared about was the next advancement, iron. Using an assortment of resins, I made iron amber, but to get the sapling, I had to go through a process. By washing a dirt sapling in water, I got an oak sapling, and then I farmed it to get an apple. Then, by crushing the apple, I could get apple seeds and planted them to generate an apple sapling. Now, I had apple trees, which was actually pretty nice. I went and planted one down to grow some better food. But yeah, with the apple sapling, I put it in water and it became an acacia one. You'd think that would be enough, but the melter was also too cold to melt the iron. I had to make a seared tank and fill it with lava to get enough heat to melt it down. But with that, I could get my iron sapling and finally obtain iron ingots. Huge. Oh my god, finally. The game has changed. The game has changed. Oh yeah, the game has in fact changed. I smelted 10 bricks and I made bonsai pots. By putting dirt and a sapling in these, it grows a tiny tree that you can harvest with an axe for a few of the tree's materials. Not that great when I could just plant the tree instead. But by adding a hopper to these, I could create a hopping bonsai pot. This automatically harvests the tree and puts the drops into a chest, meaning I can now automate every material that I get a sapling for. These pots were pretty much the core of this 100% challenge, letting me get tons of materials with almost no effort. Using it, I was also able to get cocoa beans from jungle saplings, which could be used to make brown mulch. Mulch increases the speed and drop rate of the items in the bonsai pots, brown being the lowest tier, increasing each of them by 40%. With these pots unlocked, I had to put them to good use. I set up the two that I had, one for iron and then one for dirt so I can fill in the platform. Once I had the iron for a third, I set it up for clay so I could make more pots. And as soon as that was all set up, my cobblestone chest was finally full, letting me get that advancement. While waiting on my bonsais to generate dirt, I progressed through more saplings, getting ones for lapis and lead, and then I ran into a new issue. The next few needed dyes, specifically yellow, red, and light gray, meaning I had to get grass, which was actually surprisingly easy. Apparently, just putting a leaf block into mud creates a grass block. I placed grass in each section of my platform and then used some of my iron to create a watering can. This was not only an advancement, but it also accelerated the growth of grass by watering it, saving me a ton of time. Once the grass was spread, I made bone meal and I started getting my flowers. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I forgot about seeds. What? I'm a farmer! Yes! I can grow everything. What? Advancement! Yes, not only do I get my dyes for the next saplings, but I have seeds for all kinds of crops now too. But there was another issue. Because my spawn just so happened to be in a deep ocean biome and not a plains biome, I could not get light gray dye from flowers. So I started looking at other options. Like, I guess I could pulverize, black dye powder. Okay, well, horse, look at him go. What the heck? Despite looking ridiculous, that actually was how I could get access to gray dye. I made this grindstone, then put in a piece of charcoal and crushed it. Crushed coal and charcoal just count as black dye, and I can now combine that with bone meal to get what I needed to make progress again. I got saplings for redstone and gold, and for the silver one I needed a mineral sapling first, which was actually pretty important on its own. It was a blue tree that gave me berries and some crystals that I would need later. But yeah, with it I was able to make the silver sapling, and finally, by combining all of the ores that I just made, I could create the diamond sapling. A bit of farming later, I could make my very first diamond. This was a huge moment, getting me to the very end of the first page of advancements. Though there were a few other side ones, so I went ahead and started knocking those out. The first of which was actually pretty convenient. I farmed wheat and sugarcane in order to make a donut sapling. This was literally a tree that grows donuts. And it was my best renewable food source so far too, meaning I'd be eating these for a while. The rest of the stuff on this page needed me to obtain animals. So I spent a bit setting up more dirt bonsais and filling the platform in so I'd have somewhere to put them. It was around here that I decided to change my vision for my base a little and split it in two. One half would be for farm type stuff and be made of grass, and the other half would be for factory type stuff and be made of cobblestone. Though rather than using boring normal cobblestone, I made a chisel to let me make a different textured, cooler cobblestone. I filled in the factory side so I had more space to work with, and I started moving some stuff over to it. I set up a huge section of chests that would soon become my bonsai factory, letting me produce infinite amounts of everything that I had a sapling for. By the time I got the bonsai pots and mulch in place, I finally had enough dirt to fill in the gaps. And now I wanted to get the animals that I needed, so I fenced in one of the quadrants. After farming up some carrots, I could use them and some seeds to create pigs. Pig seed. That is... Oh my god, that's crazy. That's just how it works? Just boom, or just pig, right there. Does it work that way in real life too, or? I fed a few of my plant-based pigs some carrots to grow them faster, and then killed one. See, I could dry out cooked pork chop to get leather, which let me make cow seeds in order to get milk. And milk was, of course, used to make a slime sapling. This one was a little different and couldn't use the normal mulch. It instead needed slimy dirt, which required a cactus to make. The only way to get cactus was by making a thing called a market. What? Where did you come from? Oh. So you just sell every seed, pretty much. Mostly for corn. I can get any mob I want if I got corn. Penguin! Oh. Okay. I bought the cactus using 8 vines, and now I can make the slimy dirt to grow the sapling in the bonsai. This one, as you can probably expect, gives me slime balls and stuff. The last 2 advancements on this page both involved pigs. The first required me to slaughter even more and then chop the cooked meat on a chopping block to get bacon, which of course was used to make a bacon sapling. The exact same thing as the donut sapling, except it grows bacon. And for the final task on this page, I made a bucket of cobblestone mud. I did it! I completed the first page. The whole first page is done. I win. I'm done. I'm 100%ed. Let's go. Not really. Okay, so what does this do? Huh. No diggable block dirt. What do you do? So you dig resources? I don't think that's you. I have trees, bro. I have trees. I don't need you. Yeah, I guess these resource hogs were like an alternative way to farm materials, but there's just no way they're better than the bonsai trees. Speaking of the bonsais, I added all the sapling types that I had made to the pots, officially getting me a factory that generates everything. At least, everything I had a sapling for. Now that I had completed the first page of advancements, I was basically through the tutorial early game grind and can now choose whatever I wanted to focus on. And given the amount of stuff that I was farming right now, the Age of Storage tab was kind of standing out to me. There was a quest to make a max size storage chest using a chest builder, and I was curious what max size meant, so I did that one first. It took an entire stack of iron, which is expensive, but I did it, and wow, this thing did a lot of slots. I literally had to lower my GUI scale to see them all, and on its own, this chest was way too inconvenient to actually use. But that's where the next part of this page comes in, the simple storage network. Before I could make it, I would first and foremost need nether quartz. Though I didn't actually need to go to the nether for that. Instead, I used a redstone amber and some lava to make netherrack, allowing me to then craft the netherrack sapling. When put in a bonsai pot, this had a 4% chance to make 1 nether quartz every time it grew. While waiting for those to generate, I worked on the other stuff for the network. Storage cables, a storage request table, then I used the first piece of quartz that I got to make an observer for these yellow cables which were needed to make the controller. And the last thing I had to make needed 16 nether quartz. So I set up more netherrack bonsais, waited it out, and I crafted the master block of the storage network. Now I just had to figure out how to actually use it all. Okay, let's just do like this, 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 like this. Oh, okay. How do I put items in here? Oh God, I crashed. I'm sorry. I just wanted to put an item in. I'm sorry. Oh, that was bad. I ended up more or less figuring it out. Turns out this thing does not store items on its own, but rather I connected to all my chests via these cables, and I can access all of them from one place. Connecting that max size chest that I made added a ton of storage into the system, and I moved all my items into it. I then crafted a remote which let me access the system from anywhere within 64 blocks, which in Sky Factory pretty much just means anywhere. After getting that, I realized I made a huge mistake. The purple cables that I chose for this were both input and output, meaning it was filling my bonsai chests with all of my other items. I had to tinker with it a bit to figure it out, but I can apparently just disable inputting on the cable themselves, which fixed the issue. I went ahead and made 3 more max size chests and added them to the system, and now my storage problems were completely solved for the time being. The next problem at hand was actually processing the materials that I was making. I had all these acorns and all this resin, but if I couldn't efficiently turn that into usable materials, then what's the point? My plan for this was to make a smeltery, a big multi-block build similar to the melter, but I could do way more at one time. I also hadn't mentioned it yet, but the melter and smeltery doubled the amount of ingots that I get from processing amber, so it was just way better than doing furnaces. I made a ton of grout for seared bricks, and once they were done, I made a controller, drains, tanks, and bricks, and I built up the smeltery. There wasn't even an advancement for this for some reason, though there was one to make an alloy tank, which I didn't even need now that I had a smeltery, funny enough. Now that I had the smeltery, I had to figure out automatic lava to power it. I crafted some diorite, and I used it to make an auto clicker. This block could automatically left or right click using the item in the inventory, and by putting a cobblestone generator under it, I could have it automatically fill a cauldron with lava. It was kind of slow, but it would be more than enough. Now, getting lava into the smeltery was kind of weird. I did this whole thing with making a nickel amber, and I put that in the smeltery with some iron to make a metal called invar, and I used that to make a hardened fluid duct, which is a pipe that should transfer liquids, including lava. But for some reason, it just didn't work with the cauldron. So instead, I made a fluid transfer pipe from a different mod, and that one worked. So now I had a smeltery with infinite lava, but I wasn't done. I made these things called redstone clocks, and I added hoppers below the smeltery's output, and then I put the clocks above the faucets. The clock would automatically activate the faucet, pouring the molten metal into the casting block, and the hopper would collect it. With that setup, I also added some item transfer pipes to the bonsai factory to auto-delete any items I didn't need, making it more efficient. Now that I had all of these materials and I could smelt them with ease, I wanted to use them to make tools. There were a lot of advancements that required me to make gear using the smeltery, so I made all these different tables for the different steps. I set up the stations, and these would let me create and combine parts made from different materials to craft tools, weapons, and armor. I made all these different patterns to make parts with, and by making cobblestone versions, I could then cast the gold onto them to make casts. Casts were needed to make parts of higher tier materials using the smeltery, and I made all the ones that I needed right now. I was able to craft a book that gave me information about every material, each one having a unique effect that it brings to the table, as well as different stats. After looking through and deciding what I wanted, I made my new gear. A pickaxe made from obsidian, a gold-silver alloy called electrum, and paper. Somehow, this pickaxe came out with 44 durability, which isn't how the math works out, by the way. According to the numbers, it should have nearly 400, but whatever. I could add durability to it later using modifiers, so for now, I just kept working on stuff. While making my sword, I actually unlocked a new sapling in the process, copper. Using copper on a weapon let me get bonus experience from killing mobs, and I figured it was a good opportunity to make it. So yeah, I made that, and I made steel by mixing coal and iron, and I forged my sword, which was stronger than diamond, by the way. The next tool I made was a mattock, a combination of an axe, hoe, and shovel. For it, I went with electrum, iron, and steel because it was fast, and iron gave it a magnetic effect that I figured would help avoid items falling in the void. To address the pick's durability problem, I added a diamond modifier to it that gave it plus 500 durability, which was plenty for now. Not like there was a ton of stuff to mine anyways. I also added a lapis modifier to my sword, giving it looting 3, and then redstone to both the sword and pickaxe to increase the attack and mining speeds. After throwing a diamond on the mattock, my tools were good for now. At this stage, I was wanting to focus on a few of the more random advancements. Stuff that was easy to do and may teach me about useful items that I didn't even know existed. For example, barrels and crates. Crates can store a lot of one type of item, and barrels can store a lot of one type of liquid. They could even be upgraded to store way more if needed, and I ended up using these a lot later. Then there was something I saw called a packager that would condense items, but it required power. So I made my first generator to try it out. I went with the most basic starter option, the combustion generator. It would just turn furnace fuels into a bit of power. And yeah, the packager was pretty cool. It used resin and acorns to auto-craft ambers and stuff from bonsais and would save a ton of storage space if I could integrate it into my factory somehow. Though right now I was not interested in just tearing it all down and rebuilding it, so I just continued on with the advancements. Such as making diagonal fences, which were cooler and less cursed than I thought they would be, honestly. I also made a dehydrator, a machine that automates drying rack recipes using power. Then I made snad, which is a sand that makes sugarcane grow a little bit faster, but I could also just bonsai sugarcane, so not sure when I would ever need this. The next advancements had me a little confused. I made a block called hydrogel, which is a solid block that waters the farm around it without actually being water. And that's fine and all, I could see where that would be useful, but the next thing that I made was a sprinkler. It speeds up the crop growth around it, which is incredibly useful, but it had to be placed on water, and hydrogel doesn't count. So why would you ever want to use hydrogel over regular water? I have no idea. Not that I'm farming crops right now anyways, but still. Speaking of crops though, the final thing in this little advancement spree was a magic bean. It was a crop that produced random plants every time it was harvested. Flowers, seeds, mushrooms, just a bunch of random stuff. And yeah, with all that little easy stuff done, I was now able to unlock some new saplings. I made ones for nickel, emerald, and cookies. The cookie one might sound useless, but trust me, it is very important later. Now that I had unlocked emeralds though, I could actually make really good armor. Emerald armor is straight up better than diamond. And yeah, I know that I could make armor the same way that I made my tools, but that stuff was kind of a pain to make, and it wasn't enchantable, and emerald was more than strong enough. Though, speaking of enchantments, getting them online was also kind of a pain. I had to farm a ton of carrots, trade them for pork chop, then I used the dehydrator to create leather. It took forever, but once it was done, I was able to make bookshelves and an enchantment table, and I had the full setup. And this is where emerald armor really shines, because it seemed to have very high enchantability. I could get up to protection 6 at level 30, not that I had a ton of XP right now, but still. I enchanted my boots, and I got multi-jump 3 and feather falling 6. Feather falling 6? Whoa, look at me! And the feather falling just block. Yo, movement. Boom, boom, boom. This is sick. Yeah. The rest of my gear just got brought 3 and 4, which was plenty. Now, for why I made the armor. There were a lot of things at this point locked behind blaze rods. Meaning it was time to go to the Nether. Rather than just building a portal like usual, in this mod pack there were cakes. Cakes that take you to different dimensions. Before going, I bought some feathers and I made a thing called an ender wing that would teleport me to my world spawn in case I get lost somehow. And then I bought eggs, made cakes, and I crafted the Nether cake and a few overworld cakes to get back home. I placed down the Nether cake and I headed inside. All right. Ew. Okay, much better. Why does it look like this, dude? What in the world? Yeah, not playing with the old netherrack texture, no thank you. Cannot believe it ever looked like that, to be honest. Okay, this nether's terrain was freaky. It was pretty easy to navigate though, and I started taking out blazes for rods. Also, androids, because those are a thing, I guess. Fighting stuff was kind of disorienting though. The electrum material on my sword gave me a speed boost if I hit mobs sometimes, which threw me off, and the multi-jump enchantment activated when I didn't really want it to, also throwing me off, and it just felt like I had never played the game before. It was a total mess. I powered through though, killing wither skeletons for skulls and androids for various android parts that I didn't really end up needing, and eventually I leveled up my sword. Using these Tinker's Construct tools and weapons could level them up, and each level unlocked a new modifier slot. Aside from the new mob drops that I got here, I also unlocked 2 new ores in the Nether, cobalt and ardite. These were some of the best materials for tools and weapons, and I would for sure make use of those when I get back home. Since there was a Nether fortress right next to where I spawned, I decided to loot it to see what I could get. Loot. Inventory upgrade. And Nether wart. Wait, I needed this. Not the Nether wart. Double inventory. What? Immediately rewarded with an entire second inventory. Though it was short-lived. Boy, that's cool. Oh, inventory upgrade. Wait. Oh. Wait, did I just lose it? Wait, that's stupid. Yeah, so I lost the second inventory. Pretty cool. Even lost the soul sand that I put in there, which was awesome. Right after that, though, I found a charm that let me walk on air. Not exactly flight, but it was still extremely useful. I also got 2 more player upgrades, a heart container for more health, and a crafting upgrade that gave me a 3x3 crafting grid in my inventory. Overall, the Nether was insanely valuable. I'd for sure be back, but for now I just placed the overworld cake and headed home. I looked into stuff that I could make with the new materials, and I came across a fire charm to give me fire protection, which sounded useful, so I made it immediately. And now it was finally time for the last of the saplings. The first step was pyrotheum dust, made of blaze powder and some sulfur that I got in the Nether. Melting it down gave me blazing pyrotheum, which I could then use to obtain a magma slime sapling. The orange slime balls from this allowed me to make a magma crystal and create the quartz sapling. With quartz resin unlocked, I was able to get the glowstone sapling and osmium amber to get the osmium sapling. And then the final 2. I had to create a purple slime sapling first, then I poured cobalt over it for the cobalt sapling, and I did the same with ardite and a magma sapling. All right. All the trees, finally! And now I gotta fix this mess. All of these saplings were now mine, but my factory needed some serious upgrades. My goal was a system that would automatically craft the items from the bonsai pots into their materials and items. Obviously, there's the packager that I tested earlier, but that just made amber, which still had to be melted down. I had a system in mind, but to build it, I would have to visit a new dimension. You see, there was a set of ores that only came from two places, the Lost Cities and the Twilight Forest. In preparation for this, given how awkward it was to fight mobs in the Nether, I enchanted new boots without multi-jump and replaced parts in my pickaxe and sword. For the pickaxe, I replaced the head with cobalt, which was the fastest mining material that I could get. And for the sword, I replaced both the blade and guard with a new material called manulin. It was an alloy of cobalt and ardite, and it was by far the strongest weapon material that I had access to. For modifiers, I made use of the quartz tree and added that to my sword, which was like a sharpness enchantment. And then added lapis to my pick for fortune 3. I also made a new shovel out of cobalt here because I learned that the matic was only a shovel when used on dirt, not gravel, not sand, just dirt. Since I was going to this dimension to do a lot of mining, I wanted to make a backpack to hold everything. Unfortunately though, backpacks required plastic, which unsurprisingly was a bit of a process. I made a latex processing unit which needs latex and water to run. So I go to make this infinite water source machine, but yep, that needs a different machine called a manufactory. I used the manufactory to get graphite dust and was now able to make the plating for the water source block. But that was only half of it. I also made a tree fluid extractor and put all the machines down and I connected them with pipes. I had a block placer putting mineral wood in front of the fluid extractor which takes latex out of the log. The latex goes into the processing unit with the water and is converted into tiny dry rubber. This had to be crafted and smelted though, and apparently the packager didn't work, so I had to use an auto crafter, which was pretty much the same thing. For some reason here, transfer pipes were not able to take rubber out of the crafter, but a hopper could. So I made the system super ugly, but it did auto make plastic. Once I had enough of it, I made a backpack with 81 storage slots. The final thing I wanted before this trip was a weapon with a bit of range. There was an advancement to make a yo-yo, which was a weapon, believe it or not. They were kind of like the ones in Terraria, if you've ever seen those. I made a new guidebook for these and read through it, then I made a stone one just to try it out and understand how they worked, and then I started making my parts. With the plastic that I now had, I could make a machine called a froster to get ice and snow and stuff, and I made an ice axle to give the yo-yo a slowing effect. Then, for the two halves of the body, I used silver for bonus undead damage and manulin because I had the highest base damage. Finally, the cord, I used another material that I recently unlocked. With stone, iron, and purple slime balls, I could create night slime, which just had the best stats that I could make. I combined the parts and I made my yo-yo, then added a diamond and a ton of quartz to it, nearly doubling the damage. This would be a perfect ranged weapon, and I was now fully prepared. I crafted the cake for the Lost Cities, and I headed in. The spawn was in the middle of the void, and all around there were these biodomes connected by tubes. The air charm that I got in the Nether was perfect for this though, and I could just walk over to one and start exploring. Creeper! Oh wow! My first fat damage! Inflict over 20 damage to a creature. Huge! Proof that my weapon was for sure strong enough. The yo-yo was pretty good too, though it was just shy of one-shotting zombies, unfortunately. The loot in this dimension had weird gadgets similar to the Nether, like I got this thing that automatically placed torches in dark places, which was actually pretty useful here. Though the real useful thing from here was the overworld mob drops like ender pearls. It was my first time really getting them, and like yeah, I could have made a mob farm, but let's be real, who wants to spend their time doing that? After spending a bit more time in the buildings, I decided to start doing what I actually came here for and started caving for ores. What the? That was just a person. A human. What were they doing here? Yeah, so there was just a human enemy. Not only the one either, there were a bunch of these mixed in with the cyborgs and the other mobs. There. Tritanium, huge. Die. With one of these 7 ores located, it didn't take too long to find thorium, boron, lithium, uranium, and dilithium, leaving only magnesium. That was unwise. I missed the ore. Oh, I broke my pickaxe. So magnesium would have to wait. Back home, I repaired my gear and started working with the materials that I managed to get. Combining steel and boron got me ferroboron, and combining that with lithium got me tough alloy. And these two new alloys unlocked a whole host of new machines, the most important of which were the melter and the ingot former. The two of these combined could melt down the amber from the bonsai trees and then form the molten stuff into usable materials. These were the core of the system that I wanted to make, but obviously machines would need power. My solution for that was a geothermal generator which could turn lava into energy, and given that I already knew how to create infinite lava, this was perfect. I made a tier 5 cobblestone generator which makes 1 cobblestone every single tick, and then I wanted a storage buffer to hold lava. For that, I wanted a metal drum, which was a process just like everything else in this pack. I made a metallurgic infuser letting me turn osmium into control circuits, and with those I can make an enrichment chamber to turn iron ingots into plates. The plates let me craft the drum, which I threw some upgrades into, letting it hold up to 352,000 buckets of lava. The next thing that I would need for this large-scale bonsai factory was space. My current platform was already cluttered, so I wanted to make a second one. I made a floating block thing that I saw an advancement for earlier, and it was a block that could just be placed in the air. Then I made a tool called a building gadget and a max tier charging machine to charge it. Okay, huge. Look at all these advancements. I'm so efficient and smart. Oh my god. Big chunk of progress, not that it was hard or anything. Once the gadget was charged, I used my charm to descend below the platform, and I started working on a second layer. Oh, that's magic. What? Look what I just did. Wait, I want to do it again. Boom, boom. Oh, I messed up a little bit, but huge. That's so convenient and easy. I finished the entire second platform, and then I made these cool elevator blocks that let me safely travel between the layers. The power farm was pretty simple. It auto-placed the cobblestone into the cauldron, and then it piped the lava into the drum, and then finally into the generator. The generator was struggling to actually use all the lava that it was getting though, so I added speed modifiers to make it burn fuel faster. And finally, because of how loud this was, I threw down a muffler block to make it quiet. With infinite power solved, the next step was mulch. Up until now, I had been using the basic tier brown mulch, but there were a lot of different tiers that I could upgrade to. I made a crusher, which let me turn saplings into biofuel. It was kind of slow though, so I worked on speed upgrades because I had the energy to actually handle it. In fact, now that I had energy, I just started using machines a lot more in general at this point. Regular furnaces were old news. Now I had an energized smelter instead, which was a lot faster. I was even able to make a wireless energy transfer block too, letting me use the power from my lava generator anywhere. Now that I had biofuel, I could turn brown mulch into yellow mulch. But for the next tier, I have to learn chemistry for this. Okay, so it wasn't that bad, but it was a lot of machines. Shocker, I know. Honestly, the entire mulch upgrade tree felt like it existed to force you to make machines that otherwise you would never bother making. I made a pressurized reaction chamber, which could be used to make substrate for the next mulch tier. So I can get substrate if I can get water and hydrogen. The hydrogen I can get with this machine if I can get some oxygen. And I can get oxygen if I can get substrate. I can get substrate if I have hydrogen. And I can get hydrogen if I have oxygen. And I can get oxygen if I have hydrogen. What is going on? Yeah, so to actually enter that loop, I had to make a different machine called an electrolytic separator. Hydrogen. How do I get you? I want you. I need you. How do I get you? And where's the oxygen? It went into here? Why did it go into here? What? No. Oh, no. No, that's not the one that was supposed to go in there. No, get out. It took me a while to figure out how to get the oxygen out of this machine. I tried all kinds of stuff, like these gas tanks, but for some reason that only let me get the hydrogen out and not the oxygen. Eventually, I just gave up and Googled it, and an 11-year-old Reddit thread came in clutch. I made an item called a gauge dropper and was finally able to remove the oxygen and move on with my day. Oh my god, finally. Yes. I am so happy. Substrate. Yes, give it to me. By making the substrate, I can now make amber mulch. After making 2 more machines, an animal sewer and a sewage composter, I managed to get fertilizer for ruby mulch. For the next tier, I had to make a condensator, turn the ethylene that I got from making substrate into a liquid, and I was supposed to be able to use that to make pellets, but it wasn't working for some reason. Do it. Liquid ethylene oxygen. Do it. What's wrong? What did I do? What? Wow, that's a new problem. This thing does not have the energy capacity in the machine to operate with more than one speed upgrade. That doesn't even make sense. Oh, whatever. Okay, yeah, I was getting a little fed up having to troubleshoot all these different machines just to get mulch. Regardless, I got red mulch, then I made a ton more pellets to get black mulch. And now the final tier, blue mulch, was actually the easiest one somehow. I just needed blue slime crystals, which was literally dirt, blue slime balls, and sand melted down, and then wither dust, which came from wither skulls, which I learned to have a massively boosted drop rate in this mod pack. It was done. I had blue mulch, 1000% growth rate, 350% drop rate. It was perfect. I could finally begin building my bonsai factory. I grabbed the pots and saplings, made metal crates, and I began setting it all up. I placed the bonsai, packager, melter, ingot former, crate, and once powered, it was all working. Though there were some key issues that I had to address, namely the fact that acorns and resin were both needed for the packager to work. Meaning, if all these slots got filled with acorns, the system would just jam and stop working. After doing some research, I found a perfect solution. If I used item ducts instead of the item transfer pipe, I can use something called a retriever that lets me limit how many of an item will be pulled to an inventory at a time. That prevented the packager from getting overloaded, but the chest was still a problem. Not sure if it was a perfect solution, but what I did was set up more crates, one for acorns and one for resin, and then all other items get deleted. This could technically still overflow one day, but it would take a very long time to get there, so I was not worried about it. So, now that I had the proof of concept for the factory, I had to reproduce it for every other material. And these machines used a lot of ender pearls that I did not have. After crafting a chunk loading thing to keep my iron always going, I decided to go to a new dimension to solve that. It was called the hunting dimension, and normally it's a giant plains type place that is always nighttime so you can hunt mobs. Though in Sky Factory, it was... oh my god. You know, I should have expected that. Oh no. That sucks a lot. Okay. Yeah, so this wasn't great. I started to build a huge platform for spawns to at least try to make it work. What is that guy doing? Do we see the same? What is he doing? He's like, look at that spring. Oh, well, never mind. Okay. I finished my platform, and honestly, it wasn't worth it. Way too many mobs, it was impossible to deal with, so instead I just went to the Lost Cities again. I found a nice biodome that was pretty much all plains and just farmed ender pearls there at night. Back in the overworld, I used some of them to make ender seeds, which were really useful, just awkward. They had to be grown in low light levels, and they couldn't be bone mealed. They could be watered with a watering can though, so I just sat in a box and grew them until I had enough. With all the pearls obtained, I made what I needed and started to get to work when I realized I got a little bit ahead of myself. I forgot that most of these segments here would need a melter and an ingot former, which I did not have the materials for, meaning it was back to mining for me. I made night vision goggles so I could see in the caves, and I went back to the Lost Cities. By flying around with my charm, I could easily access the caves and get the ores that I needed, including magnesium, finally getting that one done. Ores were not all that I found though. Gregory! What is this? What is Gregory? What is Gregory? What is Gregory? What? Custom Gregory helmet. Unbreaking 11. Protection 8. What is Gregory? With Gregory slain, I just kept mining. I found another dimension exclusive ore called Sapphire 2, which had no advancement, but it seemed pretty rare, so I kept it. And speaking of rare, what? Wait. Eggs? Wait, what? An adult chicken, a bag of... I didn't do that. I actually just found it polished diamond. There's modifiers. What is happening? Creeper, spider, spawn eggs. Well, I got an advancement. I don't think it matters, because... yeah, this is part of an advancement, like, tree. So I have to do these anyways, which I assume would lead to getting an egg. Not sure I had a use for spawn eggs, but that was cool. Back home, I started making me melters and ingot formers. I also learned that if I make an alloy furnace from this mod, I get better rates on the ferroboron and tough alloys, so I started using that. Now that I had melters and ingot formers, I could expand my bonsai systems. Not all of them needed those though, like the coal one just skipped that entirely. I slowly but surely added more to the farm, giving some extra special attention to the cookie one actually. There was an advancement that I saw later in the book that needed a lot of cookies, so I wanted to get ahead of the game there. After many hours of crafting, gathering materials, managing power, and solving all the many issues that I ran into, I finally got all the materials that I wanted online. I'm done. I did it. I have most of them in. I'm not farming some of I don't care about some of these. Oh, I'm done. This took so long. Like an absurd amount of time this took. But I've done it. I'm farming like ardite, cobalt, clay, glowstone. So many materials are just being automatically like omega farmed. I did most of this like yesterday, IRL. So I have like 14,000 iron. I have so much stuff. Huge. With this up and running, I essentially had an infinite amount of these materials generating constantly. I also wanted one more thing to auto farm, obsidian. I kept having to go back to the lost cities to mine it, and it'd be great just to have some at the ready in the future. And doing it was actually pretty simple. I made a hydrator and I used that to make lily pads, which I then used to make a solidifier. And this can use lava and for some reason 4 sticks to make obsidian. I just added this into one of my bonsai chests and I redirected the sticks from it into the solidifier and boom, infinite obsidian, which I immediately wanted to put to good use. There was an advancement to make a Tinker's Construct weapon unbreakable, and having an unbreakable pickaxe would be quite nice, honestly. I had to look up how to do it, but basically if I add 5 of these reinforcement modifiers, the tool just becomes unbreakable. I started smelting the gold that I would need to make them when I realized I was oinking. What is oinking? Oh my god, what? I heard oinking. And I'm like, what's the oinking? Because I have these turned off. I made this muffler to turn all of these off, and I'm really confused. And it's April 1st, okay? I'm recording this on April 1st, and I have a pig nose. I'm a pig. Okay. Yeah, so in case you want to know how much I underestimated this challenge by, that was recorded on April 1st. And at the time, I still thought this video would be posted in April, and yeah, that didn't happen. Anyways, back to the unbreakable tool. I crafted 5 reinforcements, and I was able to put 3 on my pickaxe. I needed 2 more modifier slots to finish this, and getting one of them was really easy. There was a feature called embossment that would let me add the perk of a different tool part to my current tool without swapping it out so I can keep my durability and stats and all that. I made the materials for it as well as a paper binding. When used as a material, paper adds 1 modifier slot, but the stats suck. But by embossing, I could get the modifier slot without the awful stats, and I could use that to add 1 more reinforcement. For the final slot, I repaired my pickaxe, headed to the Nether, and endured the awful noise as I mined a ton of netherrack and I upgraded my pickaxe to expert. Back in the overworld, I added the 5th reinforcement, officially making my pickaxe unbreakable. This was honestly not that big of a deal. I had already done most of the mining that I had to do, so I guess this wasn't that important. I took some time to upgrade the damage of my weapon with more quartz and knock out some simple advancements, like crafting machine upgrades, a stone multi-tool that I didn't really need, and I also made an iron lumber axe. I don't really get that one because the lumber axe's whole thing is that it can cut down a tree in one swing, but the mod pack has a vein mining thing, so you can already do that. Regardless, it was another advancement down. I then wanted to finish that spawn egg line that I did part of earlier. I made a mob swab and I used it on a cow to grab its DNA. Then I needed a bucket of XP. In JEI, I found a block called an XP Drain Singularity tank. And sure enough, it let me drain my XP into it and grab it in a bucket. Combining that with the DNA and some seeds allowed me to make chicken feed. And technically, the quest line was now done because I got the final part of it done earlier, but I kinda wanted to see what this did. After growing some corn and trading it for chicken seeds, I grew the chicken up and I gave it the feed. Here you go. Oh. Happy birthday, Taco! What the? Okay, of all things I expected to happen, that wasn't on it. Not chicken firework, cow spawn egg. Hello. Welcome to the world. Happy birthday who? Okay, sure. With that chicken brutally blown up, I was actually only 2 advancements away from finishing the entire age of farming. For the first, I made a milk jar and then I trapped a cow in a 1x1 space. I'm sorry for what's about to happen to you, cow. Go! Huh? Why are we broken? Oh, is the fences? Got him! Oh! Infinite milk! Does whoever made this know that cows already do that? You guys saw nothing. Thank you. Cow in a jar, condensed milk, I get it. Look at this. Look at this. You could just milk this. Actually, no, you can't. It has to build up milk over time. normal cows are a better solution than this. You could just put a cow in your kitchen. That's what everyone else does in real life. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna put him next to Gregory. Here you go. Gregory, meet your cow friend. Oh yeah. Now there was one advancement on the page to obtain every single mob seed in the mod pack. Parrot, wolf, horse, donkey. I just went through and crafted them all one by one. And most of them weren't that much of a challenge. It was just a lot of crafting and crafting and crafting, but after a few minutes I had gotten most of them done. Even Enderman, which required endstone, which could apparently just be made with lava and glowstone. There ended up being 4 mobs that needed fish to get their seeds. And rather than actually fish myself, I figured that I could maybe just make a machine to do it. And that is where the resource fisher comes in. By placing it over a 3x3 pool of water, it would just fish for me. This let me get ocelot, polar bear, and penguin, and the final one remaining was guardian. It needed an ink sac, so I actually had to grow the squid seed that I already made and kill it. It was a noble sacrifice though, because I could now make the guardian lily. There we go, you win! The age of farming is done. A whole other page is now done. Let's go. I'm also a little bit curious. Look at you, hello! Hello, small penguin, hello. Oh, you look a little bit weird. I guess you're growing up. You live here now. Don't drown. Yay. The second page fully completed. I also went ahead and threw in the other basic animals, so it wasn't just pigs and cows like it has been this whole time. With that farming section complete, I decided to turn my attention to a system I had been completely ignoring this whole time: deep mob learning. There were a bunch of advancements related to it, and from what I could tell, it was a way to automatically farm mob drops or something. To get started, I had to make a blank data model, which I thought needed redstone, but nope, turns out it is soot-covered redstone. Literally just redstone, but I had to click it on a coal block first, a completely unnecessary step in my opinion, but it is what it is. I made the blank data model and then combined it with rotten flesh to craft the zombie data model, getting my first deep mob learning advancement. Then for the second, I crafted a deep learner. And this is where I sort of started to understand. This thing can hold the data model that I just made, and as I kill zombies, it would gather data. I made the 2 machines for the mod, a simulation chamber and a loot fabricator, though I couldn't actually use these until I gathered more data on mobs. My plan was to go to the lost cities and use their spawners to gather data. But before going, I made the models for spiders, androids, creepers, skeletons, and endermen so I could progress those too. And then I headed back to the lost cities. I started killing mobs in the buildings, quickly getting the data models up to basic tier, and even got the zombie one up to advanced. I was trying to get the creeper to basic before leaving when I found something incredible. Yo, wait, this is actually really good. I got more smingets. That's really important because I was looking at the advancements because like, there's this one page at the end. This is going to take me a while, okay? I've already completed one because I have a max upgraded generator. But anyways, this is going to take me there's a lot of stuff here. But one of the first things in here is a more s'more double sminget. And I just got 2 s'more smingets. So I already have 1 milk chocolate because I got one from a chest in this place before. So all I need is a marshmallow. Because I was looking at this recipe and it's like mad annoying. Because to get milk chocolate, you need molten milk chocolate. To get that, you need milk and dark chocolate. To get dark chocolate, you need sugar and unsweetened chocolate. To get that, you need chocolate liquor and butter and cocoa butter. To get cocoa butter, you need a fluid extractor and ground cocoa. It's like a whole process, but I just skipped like the entire thing. Yes. Oh, that's so huge. Yeah, that was huge progress for a future advancement. Literally saved me so much time. After upgrading my spider, creeper, and skeleton models once more each, I headed back to the overworld to see what these actually did. By putting a model in the simulation chamber, I learned I needed to make polymer clay to actually run this thing. With that and a bit of power, this would basically run simulations trying to fight the mob or something and generate matter based on the mob used. For example, overworldian matter could be used to easily craft overworld mob drops and items. There was also matter for the Nether, the End, and the Twilight Forest. The better your data is, the higher chance you had to generate pristine matter too. For example, my zombie one had an 11% chance. Oh, I got it, pristine thing. Yes, huge, advancement. Yeah, I don't know what this is. This pristine matter is where the loot fabricator comes into play. You throw it in and you can pick one of the items on the list and convert the matter into it. And that was pretty much how this mod worked. You harvest data by killing mobs, then you can turn the polymer into other matter and print more of the mob drops. I went ahead and started getting the other pristine matter for the data that I had so far. Oh, pristine android. Easy. Wait. I could get a gun? What's a phaser? What? Give me this. Shotgun. What? Wait, can I charge it in this thing? Oh, huge. Hold the phone. I gotta enchant this thing. Overclock 3. Oh, yeah. Bang. Bang. Is this thing sick? Bang. I'm gonna go to the Nether. Hold on. Wait, I gotta shoot something with this. Yo, blaze. Oh. Bang. 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 I ain't gonna lie, my yo-yo gaps this thing in damage. My yo-yo is so much better. Bang! Oh, I'm out of charge. Aw. After trying out my awesome new shotgun, I got pristine matter for creeper and spider, and then started looking at another part of the mod, glitches. Or rather, trials that could be used to obtain glitches. See, there was an advancement to get a full glitch armor set, presumably one of the best armor sets in the mod pack, but it required me to have a self-aware tier data model for a mob. The best one seeming to be witches, as they gave 6 glitch hearts per trial. I made a witch data model, and now I just had to reach the self-aware tier, which required a lot of kills. Way more than I would realistically be able to do just by killing witches that I happened to come across, so instead I wanted to use those mob seeds that I made before. I made like 2 stacks of witch seeds, and I wasted a bunch of time trying to automate them, which didn't really work. So instead I just planted a bunch of them in the grass and used the watering can to grow them, and then I killed the witches that way. It literally took no time to get all the way to the self-aware data model, which gave me a 42% chance of pristine matter. And pristine witch matter can apparently be used to obtain statue cores that can be used to make decorative statues, and remember those because they will be important later. Now for the actual reason I grinded the data, trials. I made 2 trial keys, then I used one to make a trial keystone. This thing apparently needed a 15 by 15 platform to use, which was concerning. Using the building gadget, I made a bridge and a new platform out of some cobblestone variants, then I added some walls, and this is where I would do my trials. I put down the keystone, and it turns out I needed to attune this key. After looking it up, the way that you do it is apparently just killing the mob while the key is in my inventory and the data model was in the deep learner. I could attune multiple keys at the same time, so rather than just do one, I started farming ender pearls to make more. What? Oh, no! Oh! Oh! Yeah, that does make sense, actually. Oh, geez. Okay, that... No! No! It's okay. What do you mean, faulty? Okay. I didn't know I could attune it to a data model that wasn't even, like, leveled up yet. Wow, that was a disaster. On the bright side, it was an Enderman that I killed. Where's my pearl? There they are. It was an Enderman that I killed, so it paid for the key, because that's the only hard part of the whole key, so. Right, I forgot about lighting up the platform. Okay. Disaster narrowly avoided. Definitely did not want the shopkeeper to die. That guy had been helping out a ton. Anyways, I went ahead and used the 5 pearls that I now had to make more keys, and I killed a witch and I attuned them. These each had modifiers that I assumed would take place during the trial, and rather than look them up and try to prepare, I just picked one and went for it. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. Regen Party, Thunderdome, Regen Party and Power Glitches, Blaze Invaders. This one seems fine. All right, here we go. Something is blocking. I have to get rid of my torches? Oh, come on. Okay, I've removed my torches. I'm actually gonna get a golden apple. I have some. Weird that I even have to use them in this, but I've got them at the ready. Okay, 7 waves of witches, I guess? All right, so if I do this, I will get 6 of these. 7 waves of witches. This is gonna be really annoying. But here we go. I lied. That was really stupid. It was 2 witches. That was it? Wow, this is not hard whatsoever. I was under the impression this would be difficult, but they're just witches. Oh no, Blaze Invader, what am I gonna do? Oh. Regen Party! Oh, the Regen Party's a buff. Look at that Regen Party. What is this? I thought this would be significantly scarier and more threatening. Where's the glitches? Where's the empowered glitches? Wave 6 of 7. Get it? Sorry. Oh, hello. All right, final wave. Are there gonna be glitches or what? 3 opponents to go. They missed their potion. I expected a lot more problems there. That was so easy, wow. Okay, but now that I've done this, how do I make the, okay, I just need some obsidian. Let me just like put some obsidian here so it's convenient for me in the future. I left click with these hearts, I get fragments. And then I take these with some golden lapis. I throw them in water. Oh, magic! Ritual! And that's it. And I now have 18 ingots. And I can, this armor gives flight, by the way. Flight! This one gives double data, the sword. Well, I'm gonna go do that again. Yeah, I went to do another witch trial where I learned what the glitch thing was, by the way. Oh! Hello! Oh, that was freaky. I dealt with it before it became a problem. That's what it said. Okay. Yeah, just a mob. Not sure what it did, but I got more hearts from it. After making more ingots, I made the glitch-infused sword to help with future data farming, and then I made the full set of glitch armor. Pants, boots. Where's my achievement? Where's my this looks sick. Where's my achievement? Hold on. There we go. I relogged and I got it. Wait, why do I still have my chat? I relogged. Look at this glitch infused. I can fly. I have creative flight just forever. I can just fly, and I get more pristine matter. No, I get pristine matter when I gain data in the model. Okay, that's cool, I think. Sweet. Okay, I gotta enchant this now. Wait, this is so fast too. Look at this. Oh my god. I now had one of the best armor sets in the game and finally had creative flight, meaning I no longer had to awkwardly use the air charm to get around different dimensions. I was working on enchanting it and decided to maybe use the hunting dimension to farm experience. What the? Okay. Hold on. Armor on. Okay. I just wanted to farm a bit of XP. That scared me so badly. Yeah, shout out to the slow fall charm, real lifesaver. I farmed XP there, which was kind of miserable, but I got it done. I got all the new gear enchanted with some decent stuff. The sword was drastically worse than my main one, so I'd only use it for farming data for now. I also went ahead and used that faulty Enderman key that I had, because even though it was low tier, it still got me the pristine matter for my advancement. Then I just went and upgraded the Enderman data model anyways. Both to test my new sword, which was terrible for Enderman, by the way, because it had a poison enchantment, but I also did this to unlock extraterrestrial matter for an advancement. And now that the glitched armor set was out of the way, I could finally complete the 3rd page of advancements. Ender pouch? Wait, I didn't even need to make the chest? Oh, I did it! Completionist! It didn't even make why did it not make a sound? Okay, but like, the quest was to click this on the chest. I was supposed to do this. Yeah, it opens, okay, so yeah, I could like throw like some lapis in here and I can open it. It's like that. And I can like change the colors of these, I guess, to code it. Like I can like light gray this one. And I can, yeah, now this is a light gray ender pouch, which is, I just lost that lapis forever. Well, I guess I could just white dye it. Nah, I'm okay. All right, Age of Enhancement is done. Oh yeah, because I made the glitch infused armor set. That was the hard one left, and I did it. Let's go. That left 3 more pages before I had to actually focus on the 7th page of Torture and Despair. And honestly, most of the remaining advancements were completely free. Make a wooden hopper, make an upside down hopper, make some of the other upgrades for crates, make a shipping container. Also to make a backpack that was so large it wouldn't even fit on my screen. The next one I focused on was actually one I was only able to complete now that I had done deep mob learning. Using the overworldian matter, I can convert quartz into prismarine and then crush it for crystals, which were just a material for the medium power cell, a block that could store extra power. The highest tier of which also finally let me use the titanium and dilithium that I mined tons of earlier. I went ahead and slapped this power cell into my power farm and made an information screen to let me see stats because that was another advancement. After making a few other random items that I would never use but had to make anyways, I finished the few deep mob learning ones that I could do right now. I made some hellish matter and then I used it for ghast tiers and I made data models for both the ghast and the wither skeleton. And then realized I could probably do the blaze one too and made that. The glitch gear made upgrading these incredibly easy, at least for the blaze and the wither skeleton ones. And by using my sword to gather data, it also sometimes gained permanent damage and it pretty quickly surpassed my other sword's damage by a lot. Yep, alright. Has now reached peak performance. That is a 30 damage sword. That is like an unnecessary amount of damage. Shut up, Blaze. And I got superior blazed. Let's go. 30 damage on every single swing, and it was only sharpness 3 right now. A few moments later, through all the lag that came with generating the Nether, I maxed out the blaze model and was nearing the end of the wither skeleton one when I decided to loot some Nether fortress chests. Huh? Magic staff! Pew! Oh, that's not an orb. Oh! I am Thor. Okay. Okay, sure. A magic lightning staff is not what I expected to get in this mod pack, but hey, it's pretty awesome. I also got an antidote charm, which replaced the air one that I no longer needed. A few kills later, I maxed out the wither skeleton data model, which was honestly my main goal because it'd be an easy way to get more wither skulls. But I had not seen a single ghast that entire time, like not even one. Though, just a few minutes later, one finally spawned. Just one, and these things were absurdly rare. So I spent the next 15 minutes just flying around the Nether until I finally found a second ghast, which activated the sword's other passive ability and got me the pristine matter. Meaning I no longer had to even get the basic tier of this, I was good and just headed home. I had now reached a point where there were only a few advancements remaining on each page. The Age of Storage, though, was actually just one quest tree away from being done. Unfortunately, that quest tree was to create an ME storage system, one of my least favorite things to do in any mod pack that includes it because it ends up just being crafting and crafting and crafting. But I figured it was finally time to get it done. The first step was Fluix crystals, which I got by imbuing mineral crystals with redstone, finally using the crystals that I farmed a ton of earlier. Using this, I could make a machine called an inscriber, which I needed to get a logic processor for one of the first advancements in the tree. But to get that, I first had to get the inscriber presses, and for those I had to make a chisel head cast and then inscribe it onto cobblestone. Then to actually make the presses, I had to pour 4 different molten metals over top of this: iron, steel, ferroboron, and tough alloy. This got me the 4 presses for the mod and 4 advancements all at once. Next on this crafting journey, I had to crush sand into silicon and then inscribe it with the silicon press. Then inscribe gold with the logic press, then combine both of those with redstone to finally get the logic processor. Honestly, a lot of steps to make that thing, and the inscriber does not hold more than 1 item at a time, so you can't easily automate it, but surely I don't need like a ton of those later or anything. Continuing this set of goals though, I made an energy acceptor, then made nether quartz seeds that I enriched to make pure nether quartz. And after crushing Fluix crystals, I could then make an energy cell for yet another advancement. Now I had to make an ME terminal, which used my 1 logic processor for an annihilation core, so I had to go through the whole thing again to make more of them to craft formation cores, and then I combined it all for the ME terminal. And next up was the drive. I had to make quartz fiber out of crushed quartz, then I combined it with Fluix crystals for Fluix cables. Then pressed some silicon and diamonds to make engineering processors and combined it all for the ME drive. Then there was 1 more remaining, and I already had all of the stuff made for it. A 1K storage components, and then I just combined it with this stuff. Boom. There we go. The Age of Storage is done. Okay, this quest line might not have seemed so bad, right? I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was only, really annoying because this thing doesn't hold any more than 1 item. It doesn't hold any more. I can't put any more in it. That's only a little bit annoying, but it wasn't that bad to complete this quest line. Surely there's not quests later that would require me to make a whole lot more. Surely that's not a thing. But anyways, for now I completed the Age of Storage. Exciting, yay. In case you couldn't tell by my disdain for this mod, I would not be using the ME system to store my items. I liked my tower of incredibly large chests. It was with me this whole time, and I wasn't going to replace it now. Because I was already in the non-stop crafting mindset, I went ahead and did another thing that I've been putting off in the Age of Power tree. I made a ton of enriched alloys and simultaneously started crushing diamonds and obsidian. Once I had a bit of each, I combined the diamond dust and the enriched alloys to make reinforced alloys, and then more diamond dust and obsidian dust to make refined obsidian dust. Finally, I could mix the refined obsidian with the reinforced alloys to get atomic alloys. These let me craft all the way up to the ultimate control circuit, and I can now make the ultimate tier installer. Not a clue what this did, and honestly, I didn't really want to learn. I now desperately needed a break from all this crafting. I made some diamond buckets, which made crafting cakes way easier, and I made 10 overworld cakes. Then I made 8 Eyes of Ender, and I used them to craft the end cake. After making golden carrots to finally improve the food that I was eating, I headed into the end. Here we go. Scary. Oh. I expected it to not just be the end. Oh, I get the XP? So what, they just kill the dragon when you get here? I read the achievement earlier. I knew the dragon didn't exist because it says, "Where's the boss?" I didn't know it would just be killed on arrival. I got the egg, okay. With the dragon slain in record time, I went to the outer end. It was completely unchanged, just the vanilla outer end. Though there was an advancement for getting an elytra, so I flew until I found an end city, killed the shulkers guarding the boat, and grabbed it. That was actually most of the end advancements done. The last one required me to make dragon's breath, which needed liquid chorus, so I grabbed some chorus fruit to do that. I then spent a bit just flying around and looting end cities, which got me a grand total of nothing. The loot was more or less vanilla, just a bunch of ores that I had infinite of already. Back in the overworld, I was now tasked with making the dragon's breath. I made a squeezer and some batteries, then crafted a mechanical squeezer. This let me crush popped chorus fruit and get some chunks that I didn't need, and liquid chorus, which I did need. 2 buckets of that down, and I then used pristine enderman matter to make end crystals. And by combining all that, I managed to make dragon's breath. Normally, dragon's breath is not that useful, just used for lingering potions, but now that I had this, I could craft the ender dragon data model. Because there was no dragon to kill to level this up, it by default comes at the basic tier. And simulating it uses a lot of power compared to other mobs. Something I hadn't really mentioned earlier is that every time the simulation chamber simulates a mob, it actually gains a little bit of data. Not nearly as much as killing it myself, but eventually this could level up to be self-aware. It didn't take too long to get my first pristine ender dragon matter, a very powerful and useful item that let me make a few things. Like more dragon's breath, dragon heads, scales that were entirely useless to me, and then supremium essence, which, while not useful yet, is very useful later. The dragon was not the only boss data that I could get either. I crafted a nether star using some skulls, soul sand, and matter. Using it, I made the wither data model, but unlike the dragon, this one actually required me to kill the wither a few times. I got the materials for a few withers, and I headed to the lost cities to take it on. Here we go. I do not anticipate this being very difficult. Wither. Huh? Okay, well that's not what I expected. Okay. Okay. You can stop now. You can stop now. Alright, that's not... I didn't... Okay. Okay, why did it look like Steve? What are we doing? With my first wither slain, I summoned yet another player wither abomination, and then realized I never put the data model into the data learner. So yeah, I had to kill an extra, but either way I got the model up to basic and threw it in the simulation chamber to begin leveling it up over time. Eventually, that would be capable of making me infinite nether stars easily, but for now, it was kind of just a massive drain on my power. Seriously, running 2 boss simulations at once was intense. I threw my power cell in there to try and help, but it was draining quick. I decided to only level up the wither one for now because it cost less power than the dragon and nether stars were definitely more useful. While that was running, I was prepared to complete not 1, but 2 pages. Apparently I had to place water in the nether and put a boat on it, which is a thing you can do for some reason. Next was technically another dimension. I made a personal shrinking device which told me that I could access these pocket dimensions of various sizes. Though it was a little weird to figure out, I made these field projectors which had to be placed in a very specific way, but eventually I got it figured out. Oh, I did it. Look at this. Oh, okay. This is kind of sick, no? Okay, so if I do this, so I put this redstone. Go. Oh, ooh, it's doing it. What an awful noise in my ears. And I made compact machine. Okay, I have to do that one more time, I think. I've never seen a crafting system like this in my life. Okay, now I need to build this. Boom. And now I throw an ender pearl. Ooh! It's shrinking it. Okay, now I have a compact machine. How does this work? Oh! I did it! Ooh! Wow! That's the advancement. I'm in a box. Okay. I think the idea is you could put your machines in here. I don't know how it works. I don't want to figure it out either, but I think the idea is you could put like big machines in here, like my whole lava farm. I could put my whole lava power farm in here and I could have it output from this block. I don't care to do that, but I could. A very cool mod, but honestly not that useful to me. The next advancement was to make an airship. Yet another mod I had never used and had to learn, but luckily it was pretty simple. I made an airship workbench and crafted various different parts and combined them to create an airship. I did it! That was the whole advancement. Wow! I thought this was gonna be a little more complicated, but okay, but I wanna know how this works, because this sounds fun. I didn't even use this workbench that I made. Oh, it's like a Pokeball, airship Pokeball. No fuel? How do I fill it? Oh, wow, this UI is interesting looking. All right, I fueled it. I can fly. I could already do that. You know, this might have been really useful when I went to the Lost Cities the first time, but I was scared and intimidated by all the items, so I didn't want to do it back then. Look at this. This is like the worst airship ever. I could probably upgrade this quite a bit. I'm good though. Nice. With these skies conquered yet again, I now had one thing remaining on 2 different pages, meaning it was time for the Twilight Forest. I grabbed some blank data models, made the cake, and I headed in. All right, whisking you off to the Twilight Forest. Oh boy. Oh, it actually is in the sky. And there we go. I completed another page. I didn't think this dimension was going to be in the sky because the end wasn't. And last time I used Twilight Forest, it was quite laggy. I'll tell you that. So I thought like editing any of the generation would be like abysmal. Wow. Funny hill. This would have been significantly easier for getting these ores. This is just literally like, these are hollow, right? Yeah. What the? Yo. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. No, all y'all can get away from me. What did I just do? What are these? What do you mean advancement? Oh, that's so not cool. They added a page? Are you kidding me? They added a page? All of the food? How much is there? Obtain every tree-based item? What? Okay, things just got interesting. An entire other page. Admittedly, it wasn't that bad, all things considered, but there were some really annoying ones. For now, I just grabbed a firefly from a tree and used it to grab the data model for this region of the Twilight Forest. Killing a few of the purple spiders in this hill leveled it up to basic, and I temporarily headed home to finish one more page. Okay? I'm putting this back in because I will be leveling it up there. I'm going to be killing mobs. But Twilights matter. You win. I've completed the Age of Power. I've completed the Age of Enhancement, Farming, Power, Storage, and Exploration. And right now is when I would be jumping into this. But unfortunately, it seems that the game had other plans. Alright, it was about time for me to conquer the Twilight Forest. Though before going, I went ahead and made a few preparations. There was an advancement to get every single item obtainable from a tree in the Twilight Forest, and I decided to prepare for it by making an unbreakable cobalt hatchet with silk touch. This would let me get the leaves and a bunch of wood for all the crafting I would have to do, so it was worth the investment. I then really wanted to get this one night vision enchantment on my helmet. It was a treasure enchantment, meaning I could not get it from the table and instead had to get it from either villager trades or fishing. So I grew a lot of villager seeds. Though this method did feel kind of inefficient, so instead I had the idea of using the auto fisher that I made forever ago. I set up a few more of them to increase the efficiency and also made a new generator. I was kind of running out of power due to simulating withers, so I decided to make it self-sufficient and made a nether generator. This used nether stars to make power. The idea was for the wither simulations to pay for themselves, but unfortunately this generator was actually pretty bad. It made nowhere near enough power for that, and I ended up abandoning it pretty quickly. But back to the enchantment stuff, the librarian strat got me a book for stable footing. An enchantment that allowed me to mine at full speed while flying, which was pretty nice. And that wasn't even the only thing that librarian had to offer. Oh! Yes, yes, bang, bang, oh my god. This guy's my goat! Give me that immediately, sir, please, thank you. Wow, you get to live, actually. The rest of them didn't. Big fan of you. You get to live. I'm gonna put you somewhere. Hold on, there's like a mob capture tool, right? This thing. Mob imprisonment tool. Come here. You are not imprisoned, though, don't worry. You live here forever. Enjoy. Wow. All right, stable footing and night vision. Unfortunately, this system that I made wasn't that useful. Oh well. With my 2 new enchantments obtained, it was time to deal with the Twilight Forest. In case you've never seen this mod before, the way that it works is you have to take on the bosses in a certain order. Like, my first boss advancement was to defeat a Naga, which then allows me into the tower of the Lich boss. Normally, you have to traverse the terrain and locate the structures of these bosses, but there was no terrain here. I could literally just fly over and using my overpowered sword, destroy the Naga in seconds. Yup, there it is. Okay. That was really easy. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it was really easy, and so was the next boss, and the next one. The entire challenge of the Twilight Forest usually comes from having to explore and find the different boss structures and then defeating the bosses. But given the lack of terrain, and the fact that I could fly, and the fact that I did 1 billion damage every hit, it was completely free. I flew dungeon to dungeon, taking out the bosses in seconds, and I made a new friend too. Oh yeah, that's going on with me. Hello! Hello! You just like me for real. Come with me. Oh yeah! Oh, there's another one! Die! Oh, pickaxe! Oh! Big me in iron armor! Hello! Big sword! Big cobblestone! Big cobblestone. Okay, yeah, all the bosses were slain, but there were a few other Twilight Forest advancements to clean up. Eating all the foods, crafting random gear from different boss drops, giving this giant ram every color of wool, and then there was one remaining. I had to obtain every single plant-related item from the dimension. There are a lot of rare tree types in the Twilight Forest that could only be obtained through leaf dungeons, these little balls of leaves nested in the giant trees throughout the forest. While going around killing the bosses, I had already gotten the saplings though, and I set them up in bonsai pots. Though they did take quite a while to grow for some reason, 5 times longer than the ore trees that I had been growing. Regardless, once I had all the various wood types, I got to crafting. And this is where things started to break. First, the doors didn't have textures for some reason. Then I had an issue where trapdoors, buttons, and pressure plates just crafted the default oak versions. This had a workaround, thankfully, by using an uncrafting table that I found in a chest in the Twilight Forest. This item's uncrafting function was actually disabled in the mod pack, but the item itself wasn't. It had a unique crafting feature that let me get around the recipe issue so I could make the trapdoors and whatnot. Unfortunately, those were not the only issues with this advancement. I had 6 items remaining. 2 of them were easy. I just went to the forest and used these beans that I got to grow a beanstalk, and I grabbed some blocks from it. But the remaining 4 items were unobtainable. 2 of them generated in a specific biome, and the other 2 generated in natural caves, both of which were removed along with the rest of the terrain. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this one had me really annoyed because the Twilight Forest was a 5-hour detour and I wasn't even able to finish it. But it's fine. By all means, I had completed everything available from the dimension, and it was a bittersweet victory, but a victory nonetheless. And now, it was finally time for the Page of Torture. The page designed to be the hardest and most tedious advancements in the entire mod pack was upon us. I had completed everything else. I had every bonsai, every dimension, every material, and it was time to hunker down and get this done. First off, there were some that were actually pretty easy to knock out. I got 2 s'more smingets and some milk chocolate from the Lost Cities earlier, meaning all I needed was a marshmallow to get the doubled s'more sminget. To get it, I had to manufacture some raw fish for gelatin and throw it into the smeltery with water to hydrate it. Adding in some sugar turns that into liquid marshmallow, which I can then cast like an ingot. And boom, I could craft the double s'more sminget. Next was this weird sandwich. Basically wanted me to make a bunch of different food items and combine them. None of it was especially difficult. Just had to grow a few crops, make the various foods, make a sandwich station, and then combine them all to complete the advancement. The next 3 just required me to use all possible modifiers in Tinker's Construct. For this, I just made paper tools and weapons to give them additional modifier slots and added all the modifiers that I could to them Fission to get Modifier Master. And then I had to do the same for Yo-Yos to get Yo-Yo Master, and I finally had to make Tinker's Construct Armor and apply all the modifiers to that for Gotta Mod Them All. The next objective that I wanted to tackle was getting the remaining 6 pristine matters. I already had data for the Twilight Darkwood region, so I just simulated that, and then I made the models for the other 5. One of which was Twilight Swamp. I guess I kind of forgot to do that one during the Twilight Forest part. And then 3 of the other ones were really easy thanks to mob seeds. Guardian, Green Slime, and Blue Slime all done from the comfort of my base. I just had to go to an end city for shulkers, then back to the Twilight Forest for swamp matter, officially getting every pristine matter. 19 advancements remained, and it was time to start getting into the big stuff. I made a black iron ingots using some coal dust and iron, and then a black iron frame with those. After crafting some of this luminescent stuff, I made elite components, elite catalysts, and finally I made a quantum compressor. This machine is how you create singularities, single items made up of 10,000 of a given material. They also do absolutely nothing besides prove that you have 10,000 of the item, so that's cool. There were 2 advancements, one to make a bacon singularity and one to make a donut singularity. I used some more black iron to make this ultimate catalyst that was needed for it, which, all things considered, was a very unnecessary step. A bit of iron and black dye really does not compare to 10,000 donuts, but whatever. I headed down to my bonsai farm where my many thousands of items would finally have purpose. I used a pipe to transfer 10,000 bacon into the machine, powered it, and waited. This took a lot of power. There was no way I could transfer enough into it to make it any faster, but it was fine. I just waited a few minutes and I had my very first singularity. Boom! I got, yes! Bacon singularity! Oh my god, look at this. 10,000 bacon. Could you imagine how many calories are in this thing? Oh my god, you would instantly die. Wow. This makes 600 million power in a culinary generator. That's kind of tech, no? How much does it cost to make? 5 million. That's kind of tech, no? With the bacon singularity obtained, I repeated the process for donuts and got both of those. And my next objective, going from 0 to 100, was the ultimate singularity. This was one item made up of every other singularity in the mod pack. It not only included the materials mined from the lost cities, but also multiple alloys I had never even heard of. And I needed 10,000 of each material. For the alloys, I can definitely make some of those, but there were some where that was just not happening. They were way too complex. Luckily though, I didn't have to. This is where the mystical agriculture mod comes in. A mod similar to the bonsai trees that lets me create seeds for different materials to farm them. Though, funny enough, to start it, I would actually have to make another sapling. I know, I thought I got all of them too because the advancement told me that I did, but I guess there was a secret 29th sapling needed to get prosperity shards. I had to make inferium seeds using the essence that I get from killing mobs, and with that I made a prosperity sapling. Rather than add a whole new section to my bonsai factory, I just replaced the now useless bacon one because I already got the singularity. While waiting for enough to grow and get started, I made a board of singularities to keep track of my progress. And by the time that I had it done, I already had a few stacks of prosperity shards. Using the pristine wither matter that I had, I could make supremium essence and use that to make a master infusion crystal. This was only used to upgrade essences into higher tiers, and given that I can just get one of the highest tiers from wither matter anyways, I didn't really need it, but I made it anyways. To get the seeds for different materials, I had to use prosperity shards to make crafting seeds and then level those up using each tier of essence. Each tier of crafting seed unlocks new materials that I can grow, and tier 4 is where the materials that I had to farm started. A few of the new materials were just alloys of 2 ingots that I already have like 100,000 of, so I would make those ones myself and just farm the rest. The 5 that I really had to farm were signalum, lumium, uranium, platinum, and enderium. Using the Smeltery, I was able to make signalum and lumium, and then uranium I already had, but for enderium I needed platinum, and platinum was a little annoying. From what I could tell, I needed a mining laser to obtain it. The laser drill needed pink slime, which thankfully I can get from blue slime matter because otherwise it was really annoying. Apparently, the machine had to be put between Y5 and Y16 to get platinum ore, so I built a little platform and set it all up. After giving power to this thing, it just kind of makes ores. I made some new upgrades too and added them to the drills because it was horrendously slow. But even with those, it seemed like it was going to take a while before I got any platinum, so I focused on the seeds that I can make right now. I made seeds for lumium, signalum, and uranium, and now I just had to actually make a farm. I had seen earlier that there were these growth crystals that came in 3 tiers, worked as a water source, and could seemingly be stacked 10 blocks above and below the farm and still work. They were a total pain to make though. Not only did they need weird materials like end crystals and prismarine, but also speed potions. I saw a machine called a potion brewer and I made it thinking that it would help, and it definitely did. It took a little bit to figure out, but eventually I was able to easily automate speed potions. While those were brewing though, I did realize that the laser that I made was entirely pointless. Well, I actually did need the aquamarine stuff for later, but as far as platinum goes, it can apparently just make it with silver, amber, and diamond dust. Now that I have that, I was able to make my enderium in the smeltery, and then I made seeds for both platinum and enderia. By then, I had gotten all these speed potions that I needed, so I started crafting the crystals and was able to make 26 of the tier 3 ones right now. I crafted a bunch of fertile soil to speed up crop growth, and it was now time to make a real crop farm for the very first time in this challenge. I made a 9x9 platform of fertile dirt floating off the side of my base and added a pillar of growth crystals through the center. After adding a cobblestone trim, I went and made a plant sower and a plant gatherer. The sower would plant and the gatherer would harvest, but for some reason the sower was just broken. It had seeds and it would sometimes plant, but most of the time it would do literally nothing. It took a bit, but I did manage to figure it out. It was because I gave it way too big of a range upgrade. For some reason this thing would just completely freak out if it was trying to plant somewhere that it can't, so I used a smaller one. Now for the sorting. I made enderium using the essence that I got while figuring out the farm, and I used it to make new retrievers. These were just a faster version of the ones that I had before, and I figured they'd be a better one to use from now on. I set up some ender chests, one that would move the seeds back to the sower, and then one that would bring my essence to the crafting setup that I was going to make. And finally, I added water and a lot of sprinklers. These apparently stacked and they would speed up crop growth, so I figured they couldn't hurt. After setting up a platform to handle all the auto crafting and fixing a few issues, my farm for these materials was now complete. And in the meantime, I decided to work on the alloys that I could easily make myself. I just piped materials out of the bonsai factory and into crates, and I put the crates by an alloy furnace and piped them in, and it was actually pretty fast. So yeah, while the other farm was going, I just made all the singularities that I could. Nickel, emerald, iron, gold, diamond, all the materials that I had, I condensed into singularities until only 5 remained. At this point, I was about to AFK overnight and stop playing for the day, but before doing that, I made some reinforced obsidian and a reinforced watering can. This was just a better version of the watering can that I already had, and I just turned it on and AFK'd on the farm to make things grow a little bit faster. The next morning, I had over 10,000 of each material, allowing me to make the 5 remaining singularities. I put them on the board that I made, but obviously a regular crafting table was not going to be enough to fit all these. To make the ultimate singularity, I had to make an ultimate crafting table, which was a total pain to make, by the way. It needed 2 elite crafting tables, each of which needed 2 advanced crafting tables, and each of those needed 2 basic crafting tables. And this used a lot of black iron, which really wasn't that expensive, but it was just a lot of crafting and it was really annoying. Regardless, I made it and I grabbed each of the different singularities. Okay. These ones, I can just shift click, thank God, that's so much faster. Donut singularity, the ultimate singularity. Ender game, achievement got, advancement got. Wow, this is 10,000 of like everything. That's crazy, no? Doesn't even fit on my screen, look at this is insane. And you know what it does? It does absolutely nothing, it doesn't do anything. I did see there was a pedestal though from this mod with the black iron, hold on. I'm gonna put it down here with the bonsai factory. Honestly, couldn't have happened without this. This thing carried like most of the materials. And there we go. The ultimate singularity is on display. 10,000 of like every material. Surely that's the most items I have to get for an advancement. Surely. Yeah, so anyways, now it was time to get 5 million cookies. And yes, you heard that right. There were 2 cookie-related advancements, and the first was simple, make a cookie jar and then fill it with cookies. It had 8 slots, and after filling each with a stack, I got the advancement. Easy, only 512 cookies, you know, not that bad, right? The next advancement, however, was to fill a cookie jar with cookie singularities. 512 cookie singularities. 512 times 10,000 is of course 5.12 million cookies that I needed to make. I had already had 2 cookie bonsais running this entire time, but I only had 700,000, not even a fifth of the way there. The fastest way to farm cookies was for sure bonsai trees. I would just need more of them. A lot more if I wanted this done in a reasonable amount of time, because that 700,000 was over the course of like 80 hours of AFKing other farms. What this meant is that I had to make more mulch, so it was back to this nightmare chemistry cycle for me again. I went through the process and made a full stack of blue mulch and then started getting the other stuff I needed to make a full factory completely dedicated to cookie trees. I was even making new generators because I wanted this to be on a completely separate power system from the rest of my stuff. After putting up a little floating platform with the power generators, I made another platform for the cookie production. It took me a bit to come up with a plan because I also wanted to save all the wood and sticks from this for another advancement, but I eventually figured it out using this item sorter thing that works with the transfer pipes that I was using. Basically, I would assign 6 bonsais to each section of the system with 2 melters and ingot formers each. Otherwise, they get overloaded and they can't process fast enough. All the cookies go into one ender chest, and all the logs and sticks go into another, and then everything else just gets deleted. The logs and sticks filled up quick though, so before making the rest of the cookie farms, it was time to address why I needed those. There was an advancement to completely fill a black hole unit. I made one, and these things were kind of like crates. They can store a lot of one item. How much is a lot, you ask? 2 billion. 2 billion items is what I would need to complete this advancement. I looked through the items available to me to see what the most farmable thing in the game was as far as quantity goes. And I'm not sure if it was the correct answer, but I landed on fragile scaffolding. I could make 16 of them at 5 sticks per craft. And given how much wood bonsai trees generate, this seems to be a decent option. And the actual system here wasn't that difficult to make. I've done it. This is my best machine so far. Logs and sticks go into here, sorted. Boom, red and blue. Red takes the sticks, blue takes logs, logs make planks, planks make sticks, sticks go back into stick machine makes scaffolding, scaffolding goes into here. And I'm noticing an issue of, I didn't even think it was possible, but I don't think there's enough, I don't think the auto crafters got it like that. I don't think they're fast enough, which I didn't know that was possible. I had no concern in my head that these were going to be like the bottleneck, but they're suddenly bottlenecking. And also, every time I open this, it fills with, it's kind of tweaking out. Well, maybe it needs a few improvements actually, but I'll worry about that later. Yeah, so the system was actually totally fine. It was just backed up from the multiple chests of logs it was trying to deal with all at once, and it ended up working great once everything was running properly. As for the system for the cookies, I literally just transferred all of them into the quantum compressor directly. They would just automatically be condensed into singularities whenever there was enough, and it was perfect. Also, because the black hole units were easy to make, I went ahead and replaced the crates in the cookie farms with those instead. I hadn't really mentioned it, but either the crates or the retrievers that I was using, one of them was incredibly buggy. Like, the resin crate would just randomly get filled with acorns sometimes and break the entire system, but the black hole unit had a lock inventory button that would prevent the wrong item from ever entering it. I went ahead and threw in the 700,000 cookies I had built up for my original bonsai factory, and then started repeating the sections of the cookie factory. Though, after just one more, I started to have power issues. Probably because the quantum compressor was trying to compress 700,000 cookies, so it wasn't too big of a deal, but that wasn't the only issue. Am I crazy, or are the bonsais not growing? This is certainly a new issue. I mean, they're making stuff, but I can no longer put mulch in this one. What did I do? What did I do? I'm starting to break the seams of reality here. I'm getting a little extreme with my factory. Maybe I should turn these ones off. Yeah, so I figured all this automation was starting to cause lag and break things, so I decided to cut the cord on my old bonsai factory. There was just no way I would ever need to use all the materials that I made so far, so making any more was just pointless. And sure enough, it fixed the issue immediately. I could also now steal the melters and ingot formers and use them for more cookies, which was a plus. After doubling the cookie production though, I ran into more problems. First, the cookie processing was struggling to get enough energy, and this was only half of what I had planned to build. And second, the fragile scaffolding crafters just couldn't keep up. To fix it, I made the whole thing a lot uglier and added another layer of crafters, which seemed to work for now. But the power was a much harder thing to solve, especially because I had a lot more production that I had to make soon. Like, yeah, I could just make more lava generators, but there were actually some advancements that could help me address the problem instead. There were 3 different reactors that I had to make, and the reactors were just the pinnacle of power generation. One of them even mentioned a fusion reactor that could produce 3 million power per tick. But I assumed that one would be much harder to make, so I focused on the fission reactor instead. There was also an advancement to make it the max size of 24 by 24 by 24, so I guess I was also doing that. Though, while looking into it, I realized this would probably be complicated. What is this? Look at this. This is a fission reactor design generator? What is this website? Are we serious? What am I getting myself into? What is happening? Oh no. Okay, yeah, this was a lot. Though I was spared, I ended up finding a video guide instead, and apparently this needed a lot of stuff. Thousands of tough alloy, meaning thousands of boron and lithium and steel, materials that I just did not have a reliable source of. Since I didn't need the materials from the mystical agriculture farm anymore, I made seeds for most of the ores that were exclusive to other dimensions and also steel because that was important, and I swapped the farm to producing those. Once I had enough to get started, I set up some alloy furnaces to automatically combine materials into tough alloy, and then I got to work on the basic platings. These were the two materials needed for fusion reactor casings, which I apparently needed 3,500 of to make this reactor. With the farm going though, it really wasn't that bad to make them all. But then came coolers. The reactor apparently had to be cooled to function, otherwise maybe it explodes or something, I don't really know. But a reactor the size that I was making needed a lot of coolers, which needed even more tough alloys and steel, so I had to make those as well. I went ahead and got to work on the actual structure for now though, because I had the casings already. Now, this thing had to be 24 by 24 by 24 on the inside, not the outside. Meaning it was actually 26 by 26 by 26 on the outside, and it had no corners. After making this gigantic cube, I made a reactor door and then threw it on so I can get inside to build what I had to build. Then I made some solenoids and nuclear furnaces to make a fission controller, and I crafted some reactor ports too. I added those to the build, and now all I really needed was the coolers. And the coolers in this mod were quite a pain. On purpose, I think. You need these in your reactor, but each type of cooler has very specific requirements. Some of them need to touch a reactor cell, some need to touch coolers of another type, and some of them needed to touch an active moderator block. In this case, an active moderator block was a graphite block. And if I was reading this right, I needed 1,400 of them. It was far too many to make on my own, so instead I resurrected the coal section of my bonsai factory. Instead of crafting coal like before, I could instead melt it down and use the ingot former to make graphite ingots. And I needed a lot of those, over 12,000 if I was reading the numbers right. Not only that, but tough alloys, I also needed at least 10,000 of those, probably more. I started to come to the realization that I was not going to get this done as quickly as I thought. Given I was going to have to AFK overnight for this, I decided to set up some other stuff to AFK as well to be more efficient. Similar to the advancement to fill a black hole unit, there was also one to fill a black hole tank, which stored liquids. I figured the best possible option for this was the max tier infinite water source block. If my math was correct, that block alone would fill the tank in about 48 hours, so if I made multiple of them, it would be done in no time. To make crafting them a little bit less miserable, I wanted to get the best buckets in the game, Insanium. It was an ingot made from the mystical agriculture essence, and given that I had an infinite amount of that, I could easily craft 2 Insanium buckets. I filled them off the infinite water source that I already had, each one holding 64 buckets of water for crafting. Meaning, once both were full, I could make an entire max tier water source without having to refill. I made 4, crafted the black hole tank, and started mass producing water. I attempted to use these things that I heard about called translocators. I heard that they were meant to be the fastest way to transfer items and fluids, and they looked really cool, like you can see the water moving. But no, it was not even close to as fast as the blue pipes that I was already using. And that was actually the only thing that I could really set up without straining my power too much, so I just AFK'd for the night once again. Is this full? Wait, it is! Give me my advancement! I relogged. Does it work? Yes! So much water. Yes! With the black hole tank completely filled, I also now had plenty of materials to get this reactor going. Except I realized I forgot glass. I'd probably need like 10,000 of that too, meaning it would take a long time to smelt. But I saw that there was an ultimate furnace in this mod pack that was over 9,000% more efficient than regular. It just used a ton of the mystical agriculture essence to make, which I had plenty of, so I made it. And yeah, this thing was fast and barely used any coal. I set it up to smelt a crate of sand, and then I got to work on the reactor. This thing allegedly needed hundreds of these different coolers and reactor cells, so I just made a few stacks of each. Water coolers, reactor cells, glowstone, redstone, lapis, magnesium, and quartz coolers, and then finally graphite blocks. I took all this stuff, headed into the reactor, and I got to work. And I cannot stress this enough, shout out to only Draven Gaming for this tutorial from 2019. I'm not sure how anyone makes sense of these mods without like an actual degree in nuclear fission or whatever. Following their wisdom, I built this giant cell of various coolers in the corner of the reactor, and that was it. What do you mean that's it? This is all I needed? Do you understand how many... I'm never reading the comments on a video again before I watch it. Never again. Oh my god. The comments listed all these block counts, implying I needed 4 times the amount that I actually needed. And then a comment after that replied that I needed 8 times that many. And then again, 4 times that again. So I just formed a bajillion. Shut up, cave noise. What is this? This is all I need. No. That can't be true. Hold on. Size does, okay, well I completed it, okay. Size is done. The question is, does it produce enough RF? I need an isotope separator. Okay, isotope separator. Thorium dust, this stuff, okay, I got thorium-232. I love chemistry, I'm really a big fan. Okay, and then I can use this stuff to make fuel. This just makes these like fuel things. Okay, I'm gonna scream if this is actually enough. I'm not gonna scream. I live in an apartment, I would get evicted. Gone Fission. I didn't need... Oh my, I could have done this yesterday. Like legitimately, I thought I had to like tie like here, and like all around the whole thing. Are you kidding me? All that time for nothing. Fission reactor done. Completely misled by 4-year-old comments, so I guess I should have watched the video before reading. But since I had the materials anyways, I did go ahead and add that cooling structure to the 4 corners because it would allow the reactor to produce more energy. Then I redirected the thorium from my farm into a system at the reactor that would automatically convert it into fuel and then set up the wireless power distributors. This reactor should now fully fuel my base forever, at least theoretically. At least that's what I thought. I got back to the cookie stuff and I immediately ran into more power issues. Turns out, even if I had all this power, I couldn't exactly transfer it instantly. I hooked up more energy transfer nodes to increase how much I could send at once, but that was only a temporary solution. I decided to solve these problems once and for all and finally move on to a new form of power transfer, flux networks. By smelting redstone, I could turn it into this stuff called flux. With it, I made flux cores, a configurator, flux blocks, and a controller. The controller was more complicated than I expected, but basically I can create a network for energy. Then, by making flux plugs and points, I can use these in place of the red transfer things I had been using before. The old ones had a limit of 16,000 power a tick, but this new system was unlimited. Instant power transfer, and it was honestly kinda easier to set up than the other one. Though I didn't really feel like swapping all my stuff over, so I figured that I would just use these from now on and leave my other stuff up the way it was. Because I was in the efficiency mindset, I also gave those translocator items another shot. And turns out they actually are a faster way to transfer stuff. Not exactly the most convenient, they only had a 1 block range from what I could tell, but by adding glowstone I increased their transfer rate by a lot. They also looked a lot cooler, and I would probably just use these for anything I could going forward. Now that I had power completely solved though, it was time for 2 more farms. The final 2 farms, I hoped. I had to make octuple compressed netherrack and octuple compressed sugarcane. These are exactly what they sound like. You can craft 9 of an item to make a compressed version, and then 9 of that gives you a double compressed, then triple compressed, and so on all the way to octuple. Which doesn't sound that bad, right? Only condensing it 8 times until you realize that is 43 million sugarcane and netherrack that I would need. That's just insane, right? For the cookies, I only needed 5 million, but this was 8 times that. Of course, the black hole unit needing 2 billion items is way more insane, but at least that one can be any item you wanted. So, how do you obtain so much netherrack and sugarcane? Well, there's always bonsais. I mean, sugarcane and netherrack could be grown in bonsai pots, but they were very slow. much slower than cookies, and I needed way more, it just wasn't happening. Once again, I turned to mystical agriculture. There are nether seeds that can be used to grow netherrack, and nature seeds that can be used to grow sugarcane. I made the nether clusters and then the nether seeds, then had to grow pumpkins for nature clusters to get the nature seeds. Then I temporarily threw them in my current crop farm so I could generate more seeds because I would want quite a bit. And unfortunately, given that I was making crop farms, that meant that I would need more growth crystals. A lot more. After getting enough to get started though, I got to work on actually building the farms. I decided to use something other than cobblestone for once too. I used some canopy wood that I got from the Twilight Forest. I made it the same overall shape as my other farm, and then started layering. One 9x9 farm would be nowhere near enough, and I figured that if I stack these vertically, I can get more use out of each growth crystal. I didn't know how many layers I would need really, but I started with 5 for now and figured that I would expand later if it was too slow. I was working on the second tower when I saw something weird. What are you? Statue bat. What does that mean? Can I have you? Are you like a friend? Statue bat, hello. I can barely tell what you look like, but you be moving, hello. Why are you a statue bat? I haven't made any statues yet. It's one of the advancements I gotta do. Okay, well, you stay here. Enjoy. New friend, but the fun was over and I got back to the grind. I finished both the towers, 5 layers of fertile farmland, a full ring of sprinklers around each edge, and of course the pillar of growth crystals through the center. It's hard to really show it in the video, but between making all the growth crystals and actually building this stuff, this took hours. Now, for the actual farming system, I wanted to try something different. The other system that I used before was kind of bottlenecked by the fact that it has to harvest and plant 1 row at a time. There would just be fully grown plants or empty soil sitting there for a few seconds, and it definitely hurt the efficiency. After filling an entire layer with nature seeds, I looked at another option called the harvester. It did the harvesting and replanting on its own. It just didn't gather the items itself apparently, but that's fine, there are ways around that. Except it lied. It does collect the items itself, and it harvests the entire area once replanting it too. This thing was incredible. The other machines paled in comparison. This was exactly what I needed. The only downside is that it doesn't generate extra seeds, which I technically could use to get more essence, but honestly it was so much faster that I think it was better even without that. I set up the harvesters on every layer, and because I was still waiting on more seeds, I went ahead and worked on the crafting system. And it was really simple and pretty cool because I got to use the translocators. Basically, the nature and nether essence flow into a crafter, which turns them into sugarcane and netherrack. And those travel all throughout these packages, auto-compressing until at the very end they become septuple compressed. Cause yeah, I wanted to craft the octuple myself because it was cooler that way. I set up the ender chests at the farms, and by then I had gotten just enough seeds to fill all 5 layers. I planted everything, gave power to the harvesters, and these farms were fully online. Yeah. You can see the whole thing going. Look at this. Look, essence goes through here. Every now and then you'll see it. Boom, there was one. It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of fast and tiny. Then the sugarcane gets made, thrown into here, compressed, thrown through here, compressed again, thrown into here, where it's double compressed. And then it becomes triple compressed in here. It gets thrown into here. And then, yeah, it's cool. Look at it. Look. Oh, shoot. Okay, wait, okay. I'll show with the nether one. Hold on. So I have all this essence built up. Oh, you can see it going. Look at this system. I have all this essence built up from when I was like waiting for seeds to generate. Check this out. Translocator. I put glowstone to make it faster. And go. Essence goes in. It goes through here. Then turns into netherrack here. Boom. Compresses. Goes here. Boom. Compresses again. Goes here. Boom. Compresses again. Goes through here. Oh yeah. And we have 2 quadruple compressed already. How many quadruple sugarcane? Also 2? Oh, that's triple. Never mind. I'm stupid. Yeah, okay. Oh, I love this system. Look at all the netherrack and the sugarcane just flowing in. I did start to notice that these farms were still leaving crops unharvested for a few seconds. It didn't seem like much, but if those were growing instead of just sitting there, it would drastically increase the efficiency of the farm. My attempt at a solution was to just throw more harvesters at the problem, 3 more per layer. And after testing on just 1 layer, yeah, this increased the speed by a lot. So yeah, I added 3 more harvesters to every layer, which wasn't fun, but it was faster now, so it's all worth it. Though after 1 night of AFKing the farms, progress was not looking great by any means. I had gotten 1 septuple netherrack out of the 9 needed, and only half as much sugarcane because it makes less from the essence. Meaning, unless I wanted to have my game open for like 2 weeks straight, I would need a better solution. However, other farms were proving to work just fine. Oh, this is very done. We have so many extra. Whoa. Hold on. Okay, cookie jar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there we go. Cookie clicker. Oh, 5 million cookies in the cookie jar. Oh, wow. Okay, I can turn this off. This is good now. Oh, what do I do with all these cookies? For now, I can go right here with my 2 billion water. Look at that. Full of cookie Singularity. I wish it showed visually on the jar, but like, this is fine. I know. I'm aware of what's in there. 5 million cookies secured. But yeah, I was far from the 43 million sugarcane and netherrack, and even further from the 2 billion scaffolding. These advancements were intense. They really pushed the limits of farms and automation, but I was absolutely getting them done. I was waiting on more speed potions to expand the farms, so while they were brewing, I decided to work on some other advancements that I had been putting off. I had to get all of 46 truffles. Truffles were dug up by resource hogs like the cobblestone one that I had in my animal pen. So the first things first is I needed 46 pigs with dirt to dig into. I made a gigantic wooden frame with 46 slots, then I added dirt, I fenced it off, and I made pig seeds. Now, based on what I learned from the cobblestone hog, they have to dig up on dirt, not grass. But the seeds have to grow on grass because of course they do. So I grew them all on my main platform and then manually moved each pig one by one over to the plot. And because I already had, I moved the cobblestone resource hog over there too. These would take a while to grow up, but it was fine because I had to make all 45 remaining buckets of mud. This is where that aquamarine from the mining laser came in too, literally the only thing in the entire mod pack that I needed it for. Making these buckets was kind of a chore though, because they can't just be easy and use ingots, they have to use the crushed down dust instead, so I had to process a bunch of different materials. But once I had all the buckets, the pigs were fully grown and I started converting them. You need stone? Die. Not literally, please don't die. Yeah, so not as easy as I thought. Each hog needed specific blocks to dig into. Some needed stone, some needed soul sand. It was a whole thing. I went through and converted them, swapping over their blocks and being very careful not to spleef them into the void. Then I hit one that needed dried bricks, a block I had never even heard of. Apparently it's from using specifically the drying rack on clay. So I had to break out those again after 100 hours of not using them. It was real nostalgic, I gotta say. Eventually I managed to get them all set up in the right environment, and given that these were meant to be a way to automate materials, they generated truffles pretty quickly. I think they've all already produced a truffle, but they're not moving. Get off of it. Yes. How do I get this easily? Dirt. Steel truffle. Soul set. Okay, I gotta get all these. Hold on. No. Don't. Ah. What are you doing? Holy. I'm sorry for hitting you. Move. Okay, should be the final one. Yeah, truffles! I cannot imagine anyone actually uses these to farm materials. This seems miserable. You gotta wait for that and you need 4 of them to get 1 emerald? No chance. Surely not. Bonsais just like exist, you know? Okay, with truffles out of the way, I now had a ton of speed potions and started working on growth crystals. Once I had like 60, I started stacking these farm towers even higher, adding 8 layers to each. I even had a better solution for placing water this time by using ice and just vein mining it all at once. Way faster and more convenient than using a bucket. Once I got them built, got the harvesters in place, and got to planting the crops, I ran into new issues. Okay, new problem just arose from my 2 awesome towers of farms. I don't have the processing speed to... Because netherrack makes 32 per craft, whereas sugarcane only makes 16 per craft, so it's doing fine. But I don't have the processing speed for netherrack. It's actually not that hard to fix, but I guess I have to fix that now. But now my farm's gonna look ugly because this one's gonna look different than this one. It was so symmetrical, whatever. It wouldn't be fun if everything went perfectly, I guess. I set up more crafters and packagers to lessen the load on the ones I already had, and it seemed to fix the issue entirely. Then I was AFKing to get more stuff for growth crystals when, my base is on fire! Why? Why? Oh, nah. I was worried that could happen, but I hadn't, oh. Okay, no, this is actually bad, though. Wait, okay. There's a skeleton horse on my crafting stuff. If I walk up to that, it's gonna strike lightning and summon the boys, right? Is that gonna burn the platform? Okay, no, it didn't. Die. I'm keeping the horses, die. Oh, he jumped off, okay. Yeah, so thunderstorms were a real risk, very unlikely to be a problem, but they could be. I was now able to make enough growth crystals to max out my farm's efficiency, and at this point, only time stood between me and my octuple compressed goals. But now comes the much larger problem, 2 billion scaffolding. I had only made 124 million by this point, and that was with a lot of uptime on the farm. Of course, that was with this stuff being the secondary objective of the farm. But now that the cookie clicker advancement was out of the way, I could create a bonsai farm that's entire purpose was to create scaffolding. I tore down all the stuff for the cookie production and started making the platform even larger. Doing all that building taught me some new tricks with the building gadget too. I could bind it to an inventory and use blocks from it and build in larger shapes than just lines. It was pretty sweet. With the platform expanded, I placed a ton of rows of chests and ender chests. I assigned each ender chest row a different color because otherwise this would definitely get overloaded. Then I added rows of trash cans to void the unneeded stuff and added translocators connecting each inventory. And I gotta say, translocators are very annoying when you need this many. Seriously, placing these was mind-numbing, and then I had to go through and press the buttons to tell them which direction to go, and then I had to add glowstone, and then I had to add filters, and oh my god, the filters were just the worst. I think if I got hit by a train, like right now, I would be having more fun than what I'm actually doing. I think I would rather solo queue like competitive Overwatch right now than do this. And that's saying a lot, because there's a lot of things I'd rather do than that. This might be the worst thing I've done in my life. I have to do this so many times. I'm not even done with one row yet. There's like a lot of rows. Good. Unfortunately though, these were by far the fastest way to transfer items that I could find, so I toughed it out and set it all up one by one. Once that stuff was finally ready though, I had to make the crafting system, one that would not get completely clogged by that many bonsais running at once. It would basically start at the ender chest, the sticks would go into 2 crafters on one side, and then all the logs would split and spread out into an increasing amount of crafters on the other side. Then the crafted scaffolding would pass through a series of crates to an ender chest that would eventually feed them into a black hole unit. The full crafting system was set up, the chests were in place, all I needed now was to plant the bonsais and the system would be online. And I was nowhere near sure that it would even work. In fact, I was almost certain that it would end up clogged and break somehow. I smelted tons of bricks, made bonsai pots, put them on top of every chest, and now it was just mulch. This stuff really never gets more fun to make, by the way, just a constant cycle of moving liquids and gases and then crafting substrates and pellets, and it's just a pain. But I did it. I made stacks on stacks of blue mulch, filled the pots, powered the crafters, and planted the saplings. Okay. Oh, it's glorious. Look at this. Look at my farm. Look at my farm. My FPS is very tiny when I'm around here. It's like 20. That's pretty good. Oh, yep, that's what I expected. Okay, these are very overloaded. Okay, now why is that? Because this is overloaded. Wait, it's not even transferring. Well, that would be a problem. Take the items out of it, stupid. Take them. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's bad. Although I will say, I forgot I had these crates. It's not overloaded because of that. It's overloaded for other reasons. Oh, geez. Like I expected, the farm is way too fast. A good problem, but still a problem. The bad problem, though, is that I can't use the translocator to move items into the black hole unit. For some reason, they work with every other inventory in the game except for this one. This significantly reduced the speed that I could transfer items into it, but just by splitting up the crafting system into different colored ender chests and stuff, I could kind of make it work, but the other problem was honestly kind of difficult to fix. Part of the issue is that there's just a max speed that I can transfer items, and I've hit that limit. I cannot empty the chest fast enough. The other part is that, yeah, the crafters cannot craft fast enough even with this many of them. But I decided to just let that be the case for now. At the end of the day, this was infinitely faster than my old system, so I figured that I would just let it go and see if I can fill the black hole unit without it being perfect. With the 3 major farms fully operational, I decided to go ahead and work through the other advancements. There was one that I had to make a spawner with 0 delay using sugar and clocks. I had no idea what this meant, but I just grabbed some sugar and clocks and I headed to the Lost Cities. Turns out, yeah, I can just use these on spawners to make the delay smaller. I did this all the way down to the 0 minimum and 0 maximum. Bang, I did it. So what exactly does 0 delay mean? So like you just spawn forever? This isn't 0 delay. It's not very much delay, but it's not 0. That's kind of false advertising if you think about it. Because like it's not spawning right now. Yeah, no, that's not 0. Yeah, okay. Not exactly accurate, but whatever. I wanted to try and bring this spawner back so I can maybe add it to my trophy area for cool things that I got while 100%ing when I saw something. Oh, hello. Hello. Hi. What are you doing down here in the void, Mr. You tweaking? You freaking out a little bit? What are you? He's dual wielding! Wait, what is this? Okay. Alright. With my void skeleton friend left behind, I tried to bring the spawner home, and it didn't work, unfortunately. But oh well, I just moved on to the next thing. I needed to make all of the peaceful statues, except for sheep and rabbits, I guess, because that's, I don't know, it's weirdly generous for this page. There are different statues for a bunch of different mobs, and peaceful is the highest tier, made with 4 nether stars and 4 statue cores. These statue cores were actually easy. They come from pristine witch matter, which I had tons of. The harder part of this was actually the second highest tier of statue, which needed nether quartz ore and chorus flowers. 2 items that I basically had none of, and they weren't farmable. Technically, chorus flowers could be farmed from a bonsai pot, but it only worked on endstone, so I couldn't use good mulch. It took 5 minutes to grow, and it was a 1% chance, so there was just no way that that was gonna happen. The nether quartz ore wasn't so bad. I could mine it manually, but I opted to set up the mining laser that I made earlier in the nether. Allegedly, it would produce a lot of quartz ore this way, so while it was running, I went to the end and I grabbed a few stacks of chorus flowers. And the mining laser was way slower than I thought, so I just made a silk touch pickaxe and I went and mined it all myself. With those materials out of the way, the rest was kinda easy. I set up the witch matter to make statue cores and I started crafting. There were a lot of these things, all the animals and hostile mobs and stuff, just a lot of crafts. I got most of the initial decorative ones, then I had to upgrade them to sound versions with redstone and note blocks, then functional with chorus and nether quartz ore, and then finally into peaceful ones with statue cores and nether stars. These items were actually kinda cool. Little statues of different mobs with different functions. Like the shulker one had an inventory and can apparently give me levitation. And after a very long cooldown, most of them could drop like 1 item from the mob's loot pool. Not exactly a good way to automate, but it was an option, I guess. I went and put them around various parts of my base to decorate it a bit, and now there was 1 remaining. The peaceful evoker statue, which needed totems of undying. But apparently there are evoker seeds. I'm pretty sure I did not make those before when I made all the mob seeds, and if I did, I don't remember anyways. But I made them now, and I grew some evokers on my fission reactor, letting me get the totems. There we go, Hall of Fame, yay! Look at these little guys. I like these. These are cool. This one's a little ugly, but that's okay. It's okay to be ugly. It's okay. You could also put these things on your head, some of them looking less good than others, but I decided to keep the rabbit one on because I kind of liked it. There was an advancement to put a folder in a filing cabinet with 1,000,000 items in the folder. 1,000,000 items was light work for me, but I had no idea what the rest of that meant. Turns out it was kinda simple though. I made a folder and I crafted it with a fragile scaffolding and assigned that item to the folder. Then I made a filing cabinet, connected it to my scaffolding setup, threw in the folder, and it started automatically filling. It was filling up incredibly fast without even slowing down how much was going into the black hole unit by much. Like, this system was truly insane. It didn't take very long for the folder to, apparently, fill up. Well, I did it. That's not 1,000,000. I wasn't ready. I didn't think it was gonna work. I was wondering why. Oh, it's okay. It just tweaks out. Okay. Yeah, if I've learned one thing, having this many items moving around breaks things a lot. I'm having to like mix and match my item movement. Yeah, like look at this. Look, the items are flowing into this one slowly, this one quickly, and this one not at all. But it should be even throughout all of them. So why is that happening? I don't know. I added these crafters on the side to help alleviate the stick buildup that I was having, and they weren't flowing into these with the trains like they are right here, but because this one's flowing in, this one's not doing anything. Like this translocator isn't doing anything, these scaffolding aren't moving, this crafter is now useless. So I have to replace this with a slower cable to now start moving these items. And it does move fast. Actually, this cable is totally fine. It moves these faster than this thing can craft anyways. So it's not really a big deal. It would be a big deal if I was trying to empty it into the ender chest and empty it in, well, okay, no, this part's a big deal. The translocator just doesn't work with this thingy, and that is annoying. This is the only inventory block in the entire game the translocator cannot move stuff into, and it's the one that needs 2 billion items. So that's good. That's fun. My gripes with the crafting aside, I was now actually almost done with every advancement. Outside of my farms, I had to make 2 different fusion reactors and craft logic processors. So many logic processors, it wasn't even funny. It was a nightmare. If I couldn't figure out a way to automate it, I honestly don't know what I would do. It was so awful to craft those things one at a time. Thankfully though, it is possible to automate. It is just incredibly obnoxious. The inscriber only accepted and removed items from its inventory on very specific sides of the block in order to go into certain slots and stuff. One of the input sides was on the bottom for some reason, and it only output stuff from the side, making the entire thing a complete hideous nightmare. But I don't even care. I made it so I wouldn't have to manually make these things, and that was all that mattered. While waiting on those, I made a new seed for Fluix crystals because I needed a ton of those as well. Then I built another thing to automate engineering processors, and a third for calculation processors. Once I had a lot of each, it was once again time to hunker down and start crafting. Gotta love this part of tech mods. Truly a great gaming experience. 45, okay. 64, okay. 256, hold on. 1024, which is only like what, a ninth? Okay, this is gonna take longer than I thought. These items were absurd. And that was only 1/9 of the way to one of the 3 things that I had to make. This was every bit as expensive as I thought it would be, and then some. It is thousands of processors, an insane amount of gold, quartz, redstone, diamonds. It was unreal. But eventually, after a lot of processing materials and crafting, I got it done. That is enough. Oh my god. 16 components? Bang. The storage cell, zip this. Wow, this thing took like thousands of gold and diamonds and iron, or not iron, quartz and redstone. So much redstone. Oh my, it was like I saw it, like I swear it was like 8,000 redstone to make this thing. And what's crazy is like this is like meant to be like one storage like unit, like it's equivalent to one of these chests. It is supposed to be like one chest for the ME system. It can hold only 63 item types total. Admittedly, it can hold like 16 million items. Sure, that's a lot. But like, you gotta spend like thousands of gold and redstone and stuff for 63 item types? I would just use a chest. In fact, I did. I did that many times. Nah, you're crazy if you use the ME system. Nah, I'm not about it. I do not believe in it. With one of the massive storage crafts done, 2 remained. However, these 2 didn't go all the way up to 16 million. They stopped a tier lower, meaning I only needed 1/3 of the materials. Perfectly done. What? Never mind. Close enough though. Okay. Wait, what? I only had to make the component? Yo, they did the quest wrong. They set up the quest wrong. Oh, W. I save, I don't have to make these tanks, I guess. That doesn't really matter. Sure. Item and fluid storage items crafted, and now on to gas. See, the item one used glowstone and redstone, and the fluid one used lapis, which I have tons of all of that. The gas one used yellow dye. I needed a lot. I could buy dandelions for emeralds, but I wanted to get a little bit more bang for my buck. By using the mechanical squeezer, I could get more yellow dye per dandelion, and I just set up a little automated thing to crush them down and started farming dye until I had enough. Wait, I have enough. Oh, yes. Boom. Easy. Easy. Okay. Wow, I got a little bit more dandelion than I needed to. That's fine. Yeah, okay. With all 3 storage items crafted and obtained, all that remained was 2 different fusion reactors and the farms that I already built. The 2 billion items was honestly a real problem. Like, I would get there eventually, but the max item transfer limit was gonna bottleneck the whole thing. The octuple compressed stuff, though, was much more promising. Okay. 4. Come on. Yes! Yes! Oh, I have enough. Okay, hold on. Septuple compressed. Oh, I want to make it myself. Okay, I need to craft. I have a crafting table right here. Look at this. Octuple compressed netherrack. Nether region. Done. Huge. Okay. That happened. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It happened twice as fast as this one. Almost exactly. Because this one makes half as much. The nether recipe makes 32. Okay. I will take it. With the 43 million netherrack out of the way, I repurposed the nether farm to a nature one to double the production of sugarcane. With that swapped over, it was time for the fusion reactors. I was required to make two different ones, the first of which was going to be a matter overdrive one. I looked it up, figured out what I needed, and started crafting. I needed a bunch of isolinear circuits, tritanium plates, superconductor magnets, and with all those I made fusion reactor coils. Then I made a holographic sign, machine casing, and then a new machine called a molecular inscriber. I had just about enough of inscribers, but at least this one I only had to use a few times. I inscribed these circuits with gold for tier 2 and then diamond for tier 3. With that, I can make the fusion reactor controller, and then I went through pretty much the same process to make a space-time equalizer. Wait, whoa, what is that? Who are you? Don't do this to me. Who are you? What do you mean? I don't see you. No, you're not in here. You made that up. Where did you come from? That's a little suspicious. Legit not in the advancement list. What did I just do? Oh, nah. Oh no. Oh no, I'm missing my texture. It's missing. Oh no. It said I could put it on my body. Huh. Okay. I think that's a bug. I don't think that's a real advancement. I think it's like a bugged advancement that they forgot to remove when they removed all the other advancements to make their custom ones. Yeah. Not sure what that was all about, but I don't care. If it's not in the list, I don't have to do it. Anyways, I continued this crafting loop to make a gravitational stabilizer, some machine holes, and a matter decomposer. I took all this and I headed into the Lost Cities. This advancement had to be done using one of these freaky black holes that I saw all over the place in other dimensions. Okay, now I know what happens if you touch that. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna die and lose all my items. Okay, how do I do this? A good way to test that, I guess. To make use of this, I would need to place a controller 4 blocks from the black hole, which was, dangerous. Whoa, okay, let's chill out. Where am I? Wow, I'm far away. Okay, I carefully placed down the controller and it created this hologram with the black hole in the center. I filled in the spots with machine holes as well as 3 fusion coils on each side, once again being very careful not to get thrust into the void. I added the matter decomposer next to the controller, gave it power and some wood, and this thing started to produce power, I think. The black hole was also getting stronger, pulling me in from even further away than before, which was scary. I went back home and got some diamond blocks and a second matter decomposer, entirely because the no commentary video that I found online used them, and I assumed it was for a reason. I was a little confused at first because my black hole wouldn't eat diamonds like the one that I saw in the video. But after feeding it some wood, which it was deleting, the power generated by the reactor went up and the pull strength increased by a lot. This thing is getting a lot pullier. Okay. I got a tooltip once that said if you fall in the void, it's safer than you think. It's because you just come back out. Wow, I've been afraid of falling. I had a void charm for this, and I just didn't even need it. Or the void charm's what did it, I guess. That's possible. But it didn't use any durability, and everything else does, so. Okay. My black hole could now eat diamonds to grow in size and power. I fed it all that I brought with me, and then ran into a new problem. Oh, that is getting huge. Wow. Look at this. Oh, the power I hold. Wow. Is it that easy? Do I just give it matter and it gets juiced? Is it that simple? Okay. So I do notice that I can't leave anymore. What do I do about that? Well, this is a predicament. I was kinda trapped. I just let myself get flung though and went to grab as many diamond blocks as I could hold. I started feeding them in when yet another new issue arose. Wait. Okay, that's a new problem. It hurts me now. It hurts me now when I'm close enough to feed it. Okay. I might be creating a little bit of a monster, I'm not gonna lie. This is tough. Seriously, messing with black holes was not that safe apparently. I figured this is where the gravitational stabilizer came in, so I placed it in the sky, but I think it was the wrong way or something, and I learned that I cannot break this block for some reason. I was able to make a titanium wrench to let me pick it up though, and after reorienting it a bit, it shot a red laser directly into the black hole. This dramatically reduced the pull range, letting me check the power, and I was currently at 6,600 out of the 15,000 that I needed. I definitely had to make more stabilizers to survive making this thing strong enough. I managed to add one more, which didn't help that much, honestly. Okay, I got a long flight back. All right. Once I finally got back, I had to place more stabilizers, except this time directly next to the anomaly. These only worked if they were pointed right at the center, and I already put one above and below, meaning I had to put one inside the reactor ring pointed at the sides for it to work. Which was hard. I got flung 1,000 blocks away again, and it took a lot of trying, but eventually I got some blocks in place and allowed me to put down a third stabilizer, and then a fourth, a fifth, and by then the pull was lower, so it was easier for me to get the sixth and final stabilizer in place. It was still a very strong black hole, but it wouldn't kill me while feeding it, for now at least. I placed an overworld cake on the reactor because I couldn't really move once I was on it, and I started making trips to feed it stacks and stacks of diamond blocks when I started to run very low on diamonds. I had only reached 10,000 energy per tick, so I set up some more diamond bonsais to try and reach that 15,000. Which is of course where I run into a brand new issue, and my flux network wasn't working. Or at least it wasn't working entirely. I don't really get the issue, some things were just not receiving power anymore, despite me having way more than enough to go around. It was affecting everything too, my stick farm, my attempted diamond farm, all of it. The solution was, for some reason, to go around and enable surge mode on all of the flux points. No idea what that was, no idea why I needed it, but it let things get power again, so sure. I got the diamond farm set up, making tons of diamond blocks. After AFKing it for a while, I had a few thousand, and I threw them in there, only for the energy to barely go up. Turns out it takes a lot of diamonds to get to 15,000, like way more than I expected. I guess that's why it's on the final advancement page. An entire night of AFKing later, I had 20,000 diamond blocks, which wasn't even close to enough. It barely got me over 13,000. The diminishing returns were crazy. I added a ton more bonsais to my diamond production to try and get there as fast as possible, and then gave it a few more hours of AFK. 38,000 diamond blocks this time, and it was close, but it was finally enough. Come on, get there. Yes! 15,000. Oh, wow. That took that was an absurd amount of diamonds. That was all the diamonds I'd built up originally, and then like 60,000 more blocks of diamonds. That's crazy. Okay, now if I'm able to, I want to try and disable these gravitational things. Bang, bang. I have to come in from this side now. Bang, bang. Okay, now I gotta get the top and the bottom. It actually ate the structure blocks. I didn't think I could do that. I need to get the top one, though. And there we go. It's max. Okay, this is not as big as I thought, but it's big enough that it consumed the reactor itself. I'm glad that it can't just eat me. The size that it was originally is right here. It was this little tiny thing right there. I can't get close to it. I'm getting pulled by the other one. Okay. This is crazy. Look at that size comparison. I'm getting pulled in again. I can't resist it. Okay. I almost died to it. Whoa. Well, there is now one reactor remaining. With that beast of a black hole unleashed, I said goodbye to the lost cities. Forever, honestly. Also, all that AFKing for diamonds completed something else as well. Oh, there we go. 9 septuple compressed. And boom. Octuple compressed sugarcane. Sugar high. The final thing that I had to build was a fusion reactor. Max size that produces over 3 million energy per tick. Unfortunately, I could not find the convenient tutorial for this like I did for the fission reactor, so I would have to just figure this one out. First things first, a fusion core. I made some chemical reactors, 2 for the core and 1 because it was a machine that I would actually need. And now comes these elite platings, which require DU platings, each of which need 4 uranium-238, which had a lot of very complicated ways to make it, but luckily I found an easy one. Using a new machine called an isotope separator, I could just convert uranium ingots directly into this 238 stuff and make DU platings. Now that I had those, I needed crystal binders for the elite plating. This was a combination of 4 different dusts. Magnesium and obsidian I had, but calcium sulfate and rhodochrosite were a different story. In fact, they were quite annoying. Calcium sulfate could only be made by using a crystallizer on the liquid version, which was obtained with the chemical reactor using fluorite water and sulfuric acid. Fluorite water needed a fluid enricher as well as crushed fluorite, and crushed fluorite needed a rock crusher and some diorite. All of these new machines just to get one crafting material. I did it though. I made the fluid enricher and the rock crusher, then I crushed diorite and infused water with the fluorite, and now I had half of the calcium sulfate. The sulfuric acid was a lot more annoying. Making it required 2 gases inside of a chemical infuser. I made the infuser, then got water vapor using the condensator that I had from all the mulch stuff. That was half of the sulfuric acid, and the other half was sulfur trioxide, a fusion of oxygen and sulfur dioxide, which was made with another machine called a chemical oxidizer. I made that, oxidized some sulfur, then chemically fused it with oxygen to get sulfur trioxide, which I then converted into a liquid because apparently I had to be one, and then I was about to make the acid when I learned it's actually not quite as hard as I thought. Basically, there were 2 different sulfuric acids in the mod pack. One needed water vapor, while the other one could just be done with water. Both needed the trioxide though, so it didn't really matter. I went with the water recipe because it was easier, and I combined the 2 to get my sulfuric acid. I can now finally combine this with the fluorite water and create calcium sulfate solution, which of course had to be put through yet another machine, the crystallizer, to get the dust that I needed. And now for the rhodochrosite. It was actually really easy. I had to crush granite in the rock crusher, and I got it easily. After all those machines and chemistry and stuff, I got my crystal binders, half of what I needed. Yeah, this used a lot more chemicals than I thought, so I had to go through and do all that again to make my last 2 elite platings. But I did it, I made them, and I was able to craft the fusion core. From there, I made fusion connectors, fusion electromagnets, and active fluid coolers. I would need more of almost all of these probably, but I figured this was probably enough to start. I flew off a bit from my base, placed a floating block, and then the fusion core. To my understanding, this thing could explode if I do something terribly wrong, and depending on how large that explosion was, it could wipe out my base. But surely that doesn't happen and everything goes perfectly, right? I placed the connectors 23 blocks out in each direction. The advancement called for a size of 24, and from what I could find, this was it. I placed the electromagnets next, 1 block out and down from the connectors, all the way into a huge square. Then a second ring, this time directly touching the connectors, and then a third ring 1 block out from the second ring. Finally, a 4th ring to close in this giant tube of magnets. But these were electromagnets, meaning they needed to be powered. Using the flux points, I could give them energy, and they started to turn green, meaning they were charged. It seemed like there was a limit to how far the power from one flux point could go though, so I went and placed them all around the ring, powering everything, at the cost of my entire energy network. This caused my network to jump up to 200,000 RF per tick, nearly twice what I was capable of generating with my fission reactor. So I had to go back in and add even more coolers all throughout the sides of this thing, getting up to nearly 300,000 RF per tick, but it started producing heat. And that scared me because I have no idea what happens if it gets too hot. Does it explode? Like, probably, right? It was at this point that I actually understood how a fission reactor works. The reactor cells that I had inside these giant tubes were stored and burned the fuel, and the more of those that were inside this giant box, the faster the fuel was burned, which makes the entire thing generate more heat, hence why you need the coolers. But the way that I built all these new sections foolishly merged the walls to try and save resources, meaning I added the same amount of reactor cells per section, but less coolers, and now I didn't have enough in the structure. To fix this, I made gold coolers, which need to touch water and redstone coolers, and then diamond ones that had to touch water and quartz coolers. Adding these to the tops and bottoms of each section completely solved the heat issues, and I went back to the fusion reactor. Oh, I did it! Yeah, max size. There we go. Go big or go home. Yeah, it's pretty big, all right. And very power intensive. Like, to make this thing that produces a lot of power, I have to, like, this is so much energy. Before this, I was like at 30,000. But now just to keep these magnets up and running, I'm at 190,000. Like, what are we doing? This is crazy, no? Okay, how do I make this actually make power now? To get this thing to make power, it would need fuel. Each fuel combination had a different amount of power that it could produce, and the one that was by far the best was hydrogen and helium-3, producing over 300,000 RF per tick by default, and then it could be increased by the reactor size. However, helium-3 had to actually be made in the reactor by putting in hydrogen and deuterium, and deuterium was also made in the reactor with just hydrogen. So no matter what, I had to put hydrogen into the fusion reactor before anything else. I set up a little thing to auto-turn infinite water into liquid hydrogen, then made a wireless fluid transfer node so I could send it all the way over to the reactor. Now that the reactor had hydrogen, it had to be jump-started with power to generate heat so it could actually burn the fuel. Oh my, no, okay. Maybe we set a limit on this. Oh, this one has a limit. Okay. Let's set a limit on that, shall we? Okay, that was using 1,000,000 energy a tick. Okay, the system should be able to keep up now. Barely, but it should be able to. It'll take a little bit longer to get hot enough for this, I guess, but wow, that was a lot. With the temperature slowly but surely rising, I just waited for it to reach 8,000, but it started to go down instead. From what I could tell, the temperature would fall faster the hotter that it gets. So I had to shove even more power into it to compensate for that, otherwise it would never be able to jumpstart. And I accomplished this by completely disabling the rest of my base. I made a new network specifically for the reactor, removed all the plugs from my usual power network, and dedicated the entire fission reactor to powering the fusion reactor. And this worked, almost. It allowed me to reach 8,000 in the temperature reading, but the output required to get there killed all of the electromagnets. I decided to try a different idea and grab this giant battery I had been storing power in this whole time. There wasn't a ton in it, but I figured that it might be enough to get the last bit that I needed. And it wasn't. Not because there wasn't enough power in the battery, but because the battery had a max output of 12,000 per tick, which is just nothing. But that was per output. So by adding a ton of plugs to draw power and then throwing another one on the fission reactor as a backup, come on, please work. Go. 8,000. Yes! Oh, I did it. Wow. That was shockingly difficult to get that much power into this at once. My hydrogen. Why is it gone? I don't care. I got this done. Oh, yes. Huge. It was on. I got it powered, and after sending power back to the rest of my base, I also had infinite hydrogen flowing in. But now comes yet another heat-related issue, preventing it from going too high. If the heat gets too high, this thing would just melt down or explode. Not really sure what happens, but either way, I don't want to find out. To cool this, I would need some form of infinite cooling fluid, the easiest being water by far. I made a bunch of the max tier infinite water source blocks, placed them on the corners of the magnets, and added a bunch of active liquid coolers around them. These would draw water from the infinite source and then cool down the system. However, I did learn while moving flux points to make space, you have to be very, very careful. What have I done? I'm sorry. Oh, that sucks. No. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What did I do? Stop. Why are you doing that? Are you insane? Stop doing that. Are you stupid? Stop doing that. Please just be charged, please. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, what? Okay. Alright, with that disaster narrowly avoided, I wanted to start upgrading the fuel this thing was using. I first started by mixing the hydrogen with the deuterium I had gotten from the reactor so far, which already said it was at like 2.5 million RF per tick. But then when I mixed in the helium-3 like I thought was the best, it wasn't. It was significantly less, and I have no idea why, honestly. It didn't really make sense to me. Instead, I just did double deuterium, which was also lower, but from doing it, I got access to a new fluid called tritium. It said that mixing this and deuterium was also one of the higher end ones, so I tried it out. Wait, I'm doing it. 3.8 mil, right? Yeah. Give it to me. Yes! I did it! Oh, that is awesome. Wow. Okay. I think I qualify for like a degree in like nuclear science or something now. Low key, this was tough. This was not easy. 3.8 million RF per tick. What are you even doing with that? I don't even know how you would you can't even really automate this, not that easily anyways, because you get the materials from this to even run it. And also it burns through them really fast. Like this is okay. I don't even have to worry about it though. Here, you can keep the hydrogen. You can keep running off of that. Okay. One advancement remains. I had done it. My nuclear fusion reactor had reached over 3.3 million RF per tick. I was done. The only advancement that remained. Fill a black hole unit. 2.1 billion of a single item. And I wasn't quite there yet. I began AFKing this farm 24/7 and checking it in the mornings, where I sometimes found surprises. Whoa. What attacked me? No shot. Lightning struck my villager? No, that was the goat. What? I woke up and I was low, and I was wondering why I was low health. I don't think that was why. I don't think I was within range of that, but maybe. No, lightning killed my villager. I'm sorry, bro. That sucks. A tragic loss, but after checking the farm, I just AFK'd for one more day, and finally, I did it! 2.147 billion scaffolding. You win. This was crazy. 2 billion's a lot of items. Like I was producing items at an absurd rate, like at a genuinely crazy rate, and it took like over a week of AFKing to get there. I'm starting to think 2 billion is too many. I feel like no one person should have a billion of anything, honestly. It's a little bit much, don't you think? It's kind of a lot. But I did it. I completed every advancement, except for this one, because those items aren't obtainable. That's really good. I'm really glad that's a thing in the mod pack. I'm glad that there's a stain on my 100%. Okay. Let me look at my statistics. How long did I play? 12.87 days. That's 308 hours, almost 309 hours. Look at these stats. I only logged out 34 times total. That's kind of like crazy, no? Traveled 0 centimeters by minecart. Traded with villagers, ripped my goat. He turned into a witch overnight. Wait, how many, do I have like items crafted? Yeah, I did make a lot of these, didn't I? The plating was needed an absurd amount. Like, this is crazy. Look at this stuff. Okay, this was a lie. I did not craft 3,000 pulverized iron. I don't think. Okay, this was definitely a lie. I did not use 2,200 red sandstone slabs. What are these stats? Is this like a bug because it's modded? I assume so. Okay. What an adventure that was. Remind me to never use tech mods again.